What's up, guys? CrumbleBob here again. I've spent hours scrolling through Reddit looking for the wildest, most ridiculous relationship stories out there. And trust me, I found some gems. So grab a snack, get comfy, and let's jump straight into the chaos. My husband, 42, and I, 40F, have been married since I was 22 and he was 24. He was actually 23. Until just recently, I believed our marriage was pretty much perfect. We have a daughter, 12, and a son, 14 together. We own a nice house in the suburbs, have decent jobs, and I genuinely thought we were happy. Like any couple, we've had our ups and downs, but nothing significant. We hardly ever fought, and when we did, it was typically over silly things like him leaving his dirty socks on the floor, or me spending too much on groceries. Everything seemed fine until I started getting this strange feeling that my husband had feelings for my sister. I can't pinpoint exactly when it began, but I believe it was around the time of my sister's divorce. To provide some context about my sister, 43F, she has always had this odd hatred for me, even though she was our parents' favorite as we grew up. For instance, she received a car for her 16th birthday while I got a used bike. She consistently found ways to take things away from me that I loved or was good at. When I was younger, I truly loved playing soccer, and I was actually quite good at it. My coach even mentioned I had the potential to play at a college level one day. When my sister learned about this, she suddenly began playing soccer as well. She was decent, but frankly not better than me. Not trying to brag or anything, just stating facts. One day she injured her ankles during practice and somehow managed to convince our parents that it was my fault. She claimed I tripped her intentionally during a drill, which was a complete lie. I was on the other side of the field when it happened. But since she was their favorite angel, they believed her without question and banned me from ever playing soccer again. They even made me quit the team I was on, which was humiliating because I had to tell everyone I couldn't play anymore for no good reason. That wasn't even the worst part. She also stole my first boyfriend in high school. His name was Alan, and we had been together for about 6 months, which feels like an eternity when you're 15. One day he just broke up with me out of nowhere, and the very next week he was dating my sister. She also bullied me relentlessly throughout high school, spreading rumors about me and making sure I didn't get invited to parties. I mostly kept to myself and never said anything to our parents, because they always took her side anyway. After high school, I tried to distance myself from her as much as possible. I went to college in a different state just to get away. I met my husband there during my sophomore year. He was sweet and attentive, everything my sister was not. We dated for about 3 years before getting married right after graduation. My sister genuinely seemed jealous at our wedding. She wore white, who does that at someone else's wedding, and tried to make the day all about her. My husband found it amusing at the time and said she was just being quirky. Fast forward to now. I started getting this feeling that something was off with my husband because whenever my sister called needing something, he would drop everything to help her without a second thought. Need help moving a couch? He's there. Car broke down at 2 a.m.? He'll drive across town to pick her up. Computer problems? He'll spend hours fixing it. When she and her husband got divorced a while back, she immediately called my husband, and he rushed over to her place without even telling me first. That's just how it has always been. She needs him. He's there. No questions asked. I confronted him about it once or twice, but he always brushed it off, saying she was family and he was just being nice. He made me feel like I was being paranoid or jealous, so I tried to ignore it. But the feeling in my gut just wouldn't go away. About 2 months ago, our daughter broke her arm after falling off her bike or something. We both took her to the hospital while our son was at his friend's place. The doctor said it was a clean break, but she'd need to wear a cast for about 6 weeks. She was pretty upset because she would miss her dance recital and the end-of-year pool party at school. When we got home, our daughter asked if she could get McDonald's. Because she was hungry and hospital food sucks. She also wanted her dad to stay with her. She's always been a major daddy's girl. So I went out to get her some food while he stayed home with her. I remember it was raining that night, and the drive-thru was packed, so it took longer than usual. When I came back maybe 30 minutes later, I found my husband on his way out the door with our daughter crying and literally begging him to stay. She was holding onto his leg with her good arm, sobbing that her arm hurt and she wanted him to watch a movie with her. I rushed over and asked what was happening, and he told me he was going to my sister's place because she wasn't feeling well. I asked him why the hell he was going there when his own daughter had literally just broken her arm, and all he said was, "Your sister needs me." And then he just left. Like, he actually just walked out the door while our daughter was in tears. I was beyond pissed. After I got our daughter settled with her Happy Meal and put on her favorite Disney movie, I called my son and told him to come home. I packed bags for me and both kids and went to stay at my aunt's place. My aunt was the only one in my family who ever acknowledged that my sister was a spoiled brat, so I spent a lot of my childhood with her anyway. My husband called about a dozen times that night, but I didn't answer. I was too angry. He left voicemails saying my sister had some sort of emergency, but wouldn't specify what kind. He said he would be home in the morning and we could talk then. At that point, I didn't care what his excuse was. My aunt was incredibly supportive when I told her what happened. She prepared the guest rooms for us and even went out to buy my daughter's favorite cereal for breakfast. The kids were confused about why we were staying there, but I simply told them Dad and I needed some space for a couple of days. My son seemed to suspect there was more to it, but he didn't push. 2 days later, I realized I had forgotten my work computer at home, which I needed for a meeting the next day. I went back to get it while the kids were at school, assuming my husband would be at work. He works in IT for a company downtown and usually leaves early. I obviously still had my key, so I let myself in. When I walked inside, I almost dropped my keys. My husband and my sister were on our family couch doing, well, you know what they were doing. They were so into it that they didn't even hear me come in at first. When they finally noticed me, they scrambled to get dressed. My sister grabbed her clothes and ran to the bathroom, while my husband pulled on his pants and rushed over to me, saying it wasn't what it looked like and that it was all a misunderstanding. Like, seriously? How is having sex with my sister on our family couch a misunderstanding? I just stood there for a minute, honestly too shocked to even process what I was seeing. Then I started yelling at him, asking how he could do this to me and if I meant nothing to him after almost 20 years together. I asked how long it had been going on. He tried to claim it was just this one time, but I didn't believe him for a second. I told him I wanted a divorce, and then I left. I didn't even bother getting my computer. I just needed to get out of there. When I got back to my aunt's place, I went into the room I was staying in and completely broke down crying. I think I cried for about 3 hours straight. My aunt came in to check on me and found me just sitting on the floor, staring at the wall. I told her what happened, and she was absolutely furious. I've never seen her so angry. She called my sister some names I won't repeat here. She told our parents and most of our family members, even though I asked her not to. But honestly, part of me is glad she did, because I don't think I would have had the courage to tell them myself. My mom called crying, saying she couldn't believe my sister would do something like this. My dad was oddly quiet, which is unusual for him. I think he was in shock. My husband and sister have been blowing up my phone with texts and calls, but I've been ignoring them. My husband's messages started with him begging for forgiveness, saying it was a mistake and that he still loves me. Then they turned angry when I wouldn't respond, saying I was overreacting and needed to come home to discuss this like adults. My sister's messages were even worse. She actually had the nerve to say that they were in love and had been fighting their feelings for years. Like that somehow makes it better? I just don't know how I'm going to tell my kids. What am I supposed to say? Your dad is sleeping with your aunt. Sorry for the language, but I'm just so angry and hurt right now. My son is at that age where he's starting to notice things between men and women, and my daughter idolizes her dad. This is going to crush them both. I called in sick to work for the rest of the week. I've just been lying in bed most of the time, trying to figure out what to do next. My aunt has been amazing, taking care of the kids and making sure they get to school. She told them I have the flu. I don't even know what I'm asking here. What would you do in my situation? I feel like my whole life has been a lie, and I don't know where to go from here. Update 1. Wow, I can't believe how many comments this got. I had to turn off notifications because my phone was blowing up. Thank you all so much for the support and love you've shown me. It makes me feel less alone knowing that even though I don't know any of you, you're all here for me. I've been reading through all your comments and advice. Some of you asked for more details that I didn't include in my original post, so I'll try to address those. Someone in the comments asked if my sister and I have different body types, and yes, we do. She's always hated that I was skinnier than her and made sure to comment on my weight every chance she got. Even after having 2 kids, I'm still smaller than her, which has always been a sore point. She would say things like, "Must be nice to eat whatever you want and not gain weight," or "You should eat a burger, you look sick." Meanwhile, I've always struggled with body image issues and had an eating disorder in college, which she knows about. Anyway, here's what's been happening. I've barely been sleeping or eating since I found out. My aunt has been practically forcing me to eat something every day. I told my kids that things weren't going well at work, and that was why I seemed sad. They believed me, which I was glad about because I still can't bring myself to tell them the truth about their father. My daughter keeps asking when we're going home, and it breaks my heart every time. One thing I didn't mention in my original post was that my sister and her ex-husband, let's call him Thomas, got divorced about a year ago. Thomas is actually a really great guy, super hot, and such a nice person. Sorry, but it's true. He works as a personal trainer or something like that. He's basically everything my sister doesn't deserve. They got divorced because she had been mentally abusing him throughout their whole relationship. She would constantly put him down, control where he went and who he talked to, check his phone. Typical narcissist behavior. She had recently started physically abusing him too, and that's when he decided enough was enough and filed for divorce. I remember he had a black eye at our family Christmas party last year, and she claimed he walked into a door. We all believed her at the time. Of course, being the person that she is, she spread lies about how he was the one doing the abuse. She told everyone who would listen that he was violent and controlling, and some people in our family actually believed her. My parents sent her money to help with lawyer fees, which makes me sick now, knowing the truth. I contacted Thomas to talk with him and asked if he wanted to help me get some revenge. He agreed right away, saying he'd been waiting for my sister to get what was coming to her. We made plans to meet up at this cafe downtown. I was nervous about seeing him because we never really talked much when he was married to my sister. She always kept him away from the rest of the family, especially me. We met and just talked for hours about how abusive she was to him and how he also suspected she had feelings for my husband. He said there were times when he'd come home and find them sitting way too close on the couch, or she'd be laughing too hard at my husband's jokes. Little things that didn't seem important at the time but make sense now. I told him what I saw, and we decided to start our revenge plan. First, we reported my sister to the police for the abuse she inflicted on Thomas. At first, the officer was skeptical. Male victim and all that. But Thomas still had a bruise on his arm from where she had hit him with some kind of picture frame, and he had texts from her threatening him. The police told us they would start investigating and advised us to get a lawyer. I'm not sure if anything will come of it legally, but at least it's on record now. Then, I took all the money from the shared account my husband and I had and put it in a new account in just my name. It was about $15,000, which isn't a ton, but it's enough to help me get started on my own. I don't know if this is legal, but frankly, I don't care at this point. Since I own our house, it was inherited from my grandparents, I decided I was going to kick him out. My name is the only one on the deed. I got a lawyer and started the divorce process, which I knew was going to be a long and difficult battle, but I was willing to do whatever it took to get away from him. My lawyer said I have a strong case for a favorable settlement given the circumstances, especially since I have proof of the affair. I took pictures with my phone before I left that day, which I forgot to mention in my last post. Later that week, I sat my kids down and told them everything. I know some of you advised waiting, but I couldn't keep lying to them. My son was furious, but my daughter didn't believe me at all and told me I was lying. She accused me of making it up because I was jealous of her relationship with her dad. That hurt, but I understand she's just trying to protect herself from a painful truth. I told her that even though she might think I'm lying, I wasn't going to stop her from seeing her dad if she wanted to. That same day, I got home from work to find my aunt had gathered my parents, my husband's parents, my husband, and my sister all at her house. I had no idea she was planning this. It turns out my aunt finally had enough of my sister and told the whole family what I had seen. She also revealed that my sister had been in and out of jail multiple times for things like shoplifting and drunk driving, and my aunt was always the one bailing her out. This was news to me too. My parents had kept all this from me, probably to protect me or some bullshit like that. My parents were furious and started yelling at my sister about what a disappointment she was. My mom actually slapped her and told her they never wanted to see her again. It was intense. My husband's parents told him they never thought he could stoop so low, especially since his mom raised him as a single parent before she met his stepdad, who he calls Dad. They've always been good people, and I know they're ashamed of him now. My daughter stood up and yelled at her dad, telling him how much she hated him and never want to see him again. Then she ran upstairs to the room she was sharing with her brother at my aunt's house and slammed the door. My son just gave his dad this really disappointed look and followed his sister upstairs. It broke my heart to see them hurting like that, but at least now they know the truth. My husband actually knelt in front of me and begged for forgiveness. He was crying and saying he made a huge mistake and would do anything to fix it. I told him he had 2 days to pack his shit and leave our house, or I'd call the cops. He started sobbing and said he had nowhere to go since his parents told him he wasn't welcome at their place anymore. I told him I didn't care and that I wanted a divorce. He could sleep in his car for all I cared. He eventually said, "Okay," and left with red, teary eyes. My sister just stood there through all of this, not saying a word. She didn't apologize or try to defend herself. She just looked empty, almost like she was bored by the whole situation. I don't understand how someone can cause so much pain and not feel anything about it. 2 days later, I went back home with my kids. They hadn't been to school since finding out and were having a really hard time, especially my daughter. She would swing between crying and being angry, sometimes breaking things in her room. My son was quieter about it, but I could tell he was hurting too. He stopped playing video games, which is very unlike him. I sat them both down and held them in my arms, telling them we were strong and that we would get through this no matter what. I promised I'd always be there for them. They both broke down crying until they fell asleep. I woke them up to take them to their beds, then went downstairs and had my own breakdown. I can't let my kids see how hard this is on me. I have to be strong for them. I heard the doorbell ring and thought it was my ex coming back, but it was Thomas. He came by to check on me because I hadn't been answering my phone. It was on silent. He sat with me while I cried, telling him I couldn't do this on my own. It felt good to just let it all out with someone who understood what my sister was capable of. He stayed the night on the couch, and when I woke up, he had made breakfast for me and the kids. Just eggs and toast, but it was nice not to have to do it myself for once. The kids seemed to enjoy having him there. He asked if they wanted to go somewhere special with him, like the arcade or the movies, and they just shrugged. I was about to tell him it was okay that they didn't have to go, but he somehow talked them into it, and they finally agreed, running to their rooms to get ready. I gave him a big hug and thanked him, and he hugged me back, telling me to take all the time I needed. For clarity, my kids have always been close with Thomas. He was married to my sister for about 7 years and was always the one who would play with them at family gatherings, while my sister ignored them. When they came back home later, I almost started crying again at what I saw. Thomas had ordered their favorite takeout, and they were sitting on the sofa eating while my daughter was cuddled up against his side, her eyes red from crying. I quietly took off my shoes and jacket before joining them with a smile. My son ran up and gave me a big hug, and we all enjoyed our night together. It was the first time I had seen them smile in days. I had a talk with my kids, and they agreed that we should all start seeing therapists. Thomas helped convince them because he was seeing one himself after everything with my sister. I found a family therapist who specializes in divorce trauma, and we have our first appointment next week. My husband keeps blowing up my phone with texts and calls, but I just blocked him. I've also cut off my parents, at least for now. I'm still too angry about them hiding my sister's legal issues from me and always taking her side. I got tested for STDs. All clear, thank God. That's all for now. I'll update if anything else happens. Again, thank you all for the support. Update 2. Hey everyone, it's been some time since my last update. I've been really busy with work, my kids, therapy, and just everything else. Things are starting to improve for me, and I'm beginning to feel good again, mostly thanks to Thomas. Many of you have been asking for an update, so here it is. Sorry for the delay. My daughter has been doing her best, but it's still very difficult for her. Sometimes she'll come to me or Thomas crying about how much she hates her dad, and other times she'll go crying to him because she wants his comfort. I don't blame her, and never will. It breaks my heart to see her hurting so much. All she wants is for our family to be back together, and I wish I could give her that, but the damage is done. My daughter and son had their first therapy session last week, and the therapist said this kind of back and forth is typical for kids their age. They don't know how to handle these complicated feelings. One minute they are angry at their dad for what he did, and the next minute they miss him and the way things were before. As for my ex, he ended things completely with my sister and has not spoken to her since. I suppose even he has his limits. He found a well-paying job. He worked at his dad's company before all this and was fired, and is living in a very nice house because, for whatever reason, he had been putting money aside just in case I caught him and my sister one day. I know all this because my daughter tells me everything. I don't press her for information, but she says she wants me to know what's happening in her dad's life. Apparently, he asks about me constantly, wanting to know if I'm dating anyone or if I miss him. I told her she doesn't need to be our messenger, but she insists she wants to be involved. My son doesn't speak to his father at all and never visits. I'm not going to force him to. The divorce is moving along slowly. My ex is contesting pretty much everything, trying to drag it out as long as possible. My lawyer says this is a common tactic. He's hoping I'll get tired of fighting and agree to less favorable terms. That's not happening. My ex has been trying to get in touch with me and sends me flowers and gifts. I accept them because I hate throwing away perfectly good things. It's just not who I am. And if I'm being honest, part of me still loves him. It's not easy to let go of those feelings overnight. We were together for nearly 20 years. That doesn't just vanish, even after what he did. From what I've heard, my sister is living in her car and working at a very low-paying job, some fast food place, I think. Her life has pretty much fallen apart since all this came out. She lost her job. She was a receptionist at a dentist's office, and most of our family won't speak to her. One thing I want to make clear is that if my sister becomes homeless, I'm going to help her because I just can't stand by and watch her live on the street, knowing how dangerous our town gets at night. I know many of you will think I'm crazy for even considering helping her after what she did, but she's still human, you know? I wouldn't be able to live with myself if something happened to her when I could have helped. Thomas has been a great help for all of us, but like I said before, I have no interest in him, and neither does he have any interest in me. That's all for now. I'll update if anything else happens. Again, thank you all so much for the love and support. It means the world to me, and I love you all. Mini update. Hey y'all, I posted an update not too long ago, and 2 things got a lot of attention in the comments. 1, me accepting gifts from my ex, and 2, helping my sister in the future. Let me start with the first one. The only reason I don't throw away the gifts from him is because I hate the idea of throwing away things that are in perfectly good condition. I was raised to never waste anything that could be useful to someone else. Thomas gave me a good idea about going to a women's shelter or orphanage and donating them. My ex usually gives me flowers, teddy bears, or jewelry, which I'm not going to use, so I'll be giving them away. The flowers I can't really donate, but the rest I can. I've already taken a box of things to the local shelter, and it felt good to at least get some positive use out of his guilt gifts. As for helping my sister, I don't mean inviting her into my house. God, no, I'm not that stupid. I'm talking about giving her some money because in my town, it's extremely dangerous for a woman to be alone at night. There have been several assaults in the past few months, especially in the areas where homeless people tend to gather. That's only if my parents fail to help her, which they probably won't. They're still furious, but they've never been able to stay mad at her for long. I know what she did was terrible, but I can't stand by and watch her get assaulted. That might make me weak or a pushover in some people's eyes, but I couldn't live with that on my conscience. Some of you asked why I haven't just changed my number to stop getting messages from my ex. The thing is, with the divorce proceedings still ongoing, my lawyer advised me to keep the same number for now. Plus, I don't want to make things harder for my daughter who still sees him regularly. She needs to be able to reach me when she's with him. Don't worry. I would never let that demon of a person close to my kids or Thomas. She ruined her life, and the only thing I'll make sure of is that she keeps her car. Nothing else. No contact. I would never cause the people around me more trauma than they already have. As for my ex, we have no future, and I'm going to make sure he gets that through his thick skull. A commenter said my daughter might be telling my ex about me. I hope so. I want him to know how much better we're doing without him, and for the money he saved, I don't want it. I have a good job, and my kids always get what they need, when they need it. So we don't need his help or his dirty money. Now, next story. I, 35M, have been married to my wife, 37F, for 7 years, and we were together for another 3 before that. We have a daughter, 5F, who is the absolute light of my life. On paper, our marriage seems perfect to anyone looking in from the outside. We have a nice house in a good school district. We both work full-time and have what most would consider a successful life. Her job requires her to travel on occasion and be in the office about 3 days a week. My job doesn't pay quite as well as hers, but I work completely from home, which allows me to handle most of the childcare duties like taking our daughter to soccer practice, doctor's appointments, and just generally keeping the house running. I try to ensure our daughter has a wonderful childhood, despite the fact that her mom isn't around as much. It's not that my wife doesn't care about our daughter, because she does, but I'm the one who handles the day-to-day things while she builds her career. And before anyone jumps to conclusions, this is not about weight gain or physical appearance or anything of that sort. I stay quite active and fit, and my wife is the same way. We are both healthy and take care of ourselves. She goes for a run most mornings when she is home, and I work out in our garage gym several times a week. That is not the issue here at all. The real problem is that for the last 4 years or so, my wife has shown essentially zero interest in our marriage. She acts more like we are roommates who happen to co-parent, rather than actual partners. There's essentially no romance or intimacy anymore. And when I say intimacy, I know some people immediately think I'm just complaining about sex, but that is not what I mean. I'm talking about all the little things that make you actually feel like a couple. Holding hands, random kisses, cuddling on the couch, actual conversations about our lives. And yes, sex too, but it's the entire package that's missing. When we first got together, we were that couple who made everyone else roll their eyes, because we were so into each other. Always holding hands, leaving little notes for one another, planning surprise dates, the whole thing. I'm not expecting that exact honeymoon phase energy after 10 years, but honestly, something would be nice. Now she makes it painfully obvious that she is not interested in any of that stuff. If I try to hold her hand, she will tolerate it for maybe 30 seconds before finding some reason to need both hands. If I try to kiss her when she gets home from work, She turns her head, so I get her cheek. If I suggest watching a movie together after our daughter goes to bed, she is suddenly too tired, but then stays up scrolling on her phone for another 2 hours. I figured maybe she was just stressed from work or something, so I began trying to take more off her plate at home. I do all the cooking now, most of the cleaning, and handle all the childcare logistics. That has not changed anything. If anything, she just seemed to pull away more, as if she appreciated having less responsibility at home, but didn't view it as a reason to connect more with me. We used to text one another all through the day, just checking in, sharing funny stories, sending memes, that sort of thing. Now I am lucky if she replies to direct questions. What time will you be home? Do we need anything from the store? I've tried to start conversations about her work or her day, and I just get one-word answers or it was fine. My wife also shows absolutely zero interest in my life anymore. She has forgotten important events like our anniversary and my birthday on several occasions. The last time I had a major presentation at work that I was nervous about, I mentioned it at dinner the night before. The following day, not one text asking how it went. When I brought it up that evening, she said, "Oh, right, that was today. How did it go?" For our last anniversary, I made dinner reservations weeks ahead of time at this place we have been wanting to try. Then on the day of, she texts me saying she has to cancel because she needs to work late on a Friday and will be traveling for work the next week. No apology, no suggestion to reschedule, just that she can't make it. Too busy with work. I ended up ordering a pizza and watching a movie by myself. I wound up ordering a pizza and watching a movie alone after our daughter went to bed. For my birthday last year, she actually forgot completely until her mom called to wish me happy birthday, and my wife had to pretend she had already done so. Then she ran out and bought some random gift card on her way home from work. The year before that, she remembered the day, but got me a generic gift that showed zero thought, a wallet, when I had just bought myself a new one 2 months earlier that she had seen me using every day. I honestly have no idea what changed. After our daughter was born, of course, things were different for a bit, but that is to be expected. But even during that early baby stage, we still felt like a team. We were exhausted and stressed, but we were in it together. Around the time she turned 1, something just changed, and it has been getting steadily worse ever since. I used to think perhaps my wife was depressed or something, but she does not seem unhappy in general. She goes out with her work friends regularly, seems excited about her job promotions and projects, takes care of herself, all that kind of stuff. It is just our marriage that she seems completely disengaged from. I've been seeing a therapist for my own issues for about a year now, and when I brought all this up, they suggested couples therapy and offered to give me some recommendations. When I mentioned this to my wife, she immediately shot it down, saying there is nothing wrong with her. She doesn't need therapy. She acted as if I was accusing her of being crazy or something, which was not what I was saying at all. I tried to explain that couples therapy is not about fixing someone who is broken. It's about improving communication and reconnecting, but she was not having it. I feel like I have tried everything I can think of to save our marriage. I have tried giving her space, thinking maybe she just needed some time to herself. I have tried being more attentive and planning special things for her. Nothing has worked. I've tried making so many suggestions for ways we could possibly improve our relationship. A family vacation? Our daughter won't appreciate it anyway. What 5-year-old wouldn't want to go to the beach for a few days? She loves the water and sand, but apparently I am wrong about that. A weekend getaway for just her and me? No, I'm too busy at work right now. Or sometimes it's, can't we just spend time together at home? But then when we are at home, she is either working, on her phone, or too tired to do anything. I suggested taking our daughter on a bike ride and going out for lunch on a weekend, thinking maybe a family activity would help. I just want to relax today. And then she spends the day doing laundry and reorganizing her closet, which apparently is more relaxing than a nice bike ride. One time I tried to talk to her about how disconnected I felt, and she accused me of being needy and suffocating her. I was asking for the bare minimum, just some basic attention and affection from my wife, and somehow I was the one being unreasonable. I have brought these concerns to her attention multiple times over the years. Each time things get better for maybe a week or two. She will make an effort, suggest we watch a movie together, ask about my day, that sort of thing. But then it always goes right back to the status quo. The last serious conversation we had about it was maybe 6 months ago. I laid it all out there, how lonely I felt, how much I missed her, how I wanted us to feel like partners again. She apologized and promised she would make more of an effort. For about a week, she was more present. She came home from work on time, asked me questions about my day, and even initiated sex once. Then her work got busy again, and it went right back to the same old pattern. Eventually, I just stopped trying to initiate anything with her. I stopped suggesting date nights or family outings. I stopped trying to hold her hand or kiss her. I stopped sharing details about my day or asking about hers beyond basic logistics. I just accepted that this is the way things are now. And honestly, it has been fucking miserable. I watched my parents stay in a failing marriage for over a decade for the sake of the kids, and all it did was make everyone in the house miserable and give me a completely distorted idea of what relationships should look like. My dad was clearly unhappy but just buried himself in work, and my mom was resentful and passive-aggressive constantly. They barely spoke to one another except to argue about bills or logistics about us kids. I promised myself I would not put my own child through that. So recently I started looking for a way out. I talked to a lawyer secretly and got divorce papers ready. I can afford a decent condo in town that would keep our daughter in the same school district with her friends. I cannot afford our current house by myself, but the condo would be fine for me and my daughter when she is with me. I know some people might think I should have tried harder or been more patient, but honestly, I am exhausted. I have been trying to keep this marriage alive, mostly by myself for years, and I don't have anything left to give. I am tired of feeling lonely while lying next to someone every night and being treated like I'm asking for the moon, when all I want is basic affection and consideration from my wife. Sometimes I wonder if there is someone else. She works late a lot, travels for work, and is constantly on her phone. But I have never found any concrete evidence, and part of me does not even want to know. What would it change at this point? Whether she is cheating or just doesn't love me anymore, the outcome is the same. A couple of days ago, when our daughter was at a play date, I finally confronted my wife. I told her straight up that I am seriously considering leaving her, since I feel like I don't matter to her, and our relationship is never a priority. I told her I have an exit plan ready, and if she doesn't make actual lasting changes by the new year, I'm going to file for divorce and go for full custody. She was completely blindsided, and we got into a huge fight. She basically told me I was manipulative and an asshole for dropping this on her out of nowhere. She said I was emotionally blackmailing her by threatening her with divorce and custody. I told her that none of this would be an issue if she cared about us, or at least pretended to. I told her I don't want our daughter to grow up seeing how unhealthy our relationship is and thinking that is normal. She accused me of being selfish and only thinking about my own needs. She said she has been working hard to provide for our family and that I should be more understanding of how stressful her job is. I pointed out that I have been understanding for years and that lots of people have stressful jobs without completely checking out of their marriages. The fight lasted for hours with a lot of back and forth and bringing up old grievances. At one point, she accused me of being jealous of her career success, which is ridiculous. I have always been supportive of her professional goals. I was the one who encouraged her to take the promotion that required more travel, because I knew it was what she wanted, even though it meant more responsibility for me. The fight ended with her storming out and staying at her sister's place. She came back the next day to get some clothes and things for work, And now we are doing this strange dance where we are both civil for our daughter's sake, but not really talking to each other beyond essential logistics. She keeps giving me these looks like I'm the one who destroyed everything. I know the ultimatum was harsh, and perhaps I could have handled it differently. But I have spent years trying to talk to her about this, trying to fix things, trying to be important to her again, and nothing has changed. So was I wrong for what I said and how I approached the situation? I genuinely don't know if I'm being unreasonable here, or if my expectations for marriage are just too high. I just know I cannot keep living like this. Just to address some common questions, yes, I have raised my concerns about our marriage to her on multiple occasions over the years. Things usually improve for a little while, but quickly return to the status quo in a week or two. And no, I don't have any proof of cheating, though of course I can't know for sure. She works long hours and travels for work, so technically it would be possible. But I'm more inclined to believe she just fell out of love with me and lacks the courage to end things. Also, to the people suggesting I should just get a hobby or focus on myself, I do have hobbies. I play guitar and I go hiking when I can find someone to watch our daughter. Having interests outside my marriage is not the problem. The problem is that I am in a marriage that feels completely one-sided and empty. Update 1, it has been a crazy couple of weeks, unfortunately. I want to clear up a few things from the comments first. To everyone saying I was an asshole for threatening to go for full custody, yes, you are right. I was angry and frustrated and said something I should not have. That was a dick move on my part. I know our daughter needs both parents in her life, and I would never actually try to keep them apart unless there was some serious safety concern, which there isn't. My wife may not be a great partner, but she loves our daughter. To all the people who kept insisting she was cheating, congratulations, you were right. My marriage is over, and after talking to my wife, I realized it has been for a long time. The day after my post, I began the divorce process with my lawyer. She's been cheating for around 4 years now, which lines up almost exactly with when she started to pull away from our marriage. It has been with a coworker. How fucking original, right? Apparently, they started it as just friends who would get lunch together during work, then drinks after work, and eventually, well, you know how these things go. Her explanation was that she felt unattractive after having our child, and I was busy with work and childcare. She said she was not planning on it happening, but this guy made her feel seen and appreciated in a way she had not felt in a long time. More recently, she admitted she has developed feelings for him and was considering leaving me for him anyway, which she is now free to do. When I found out, I was surprisingly calm. I think part of me had suspected it for a while, and honestly, it was almost a relief to finally know the truth. It explained so much about her behavior over the last few years. When I gave her the ultimatum, she was surprised that I was actually considering leaving her. She thought I knew about the affair already and was just trying to make her feel guilty or something. I do not know what kind of mental gymnastics that requires, but whatever. She said she had been dropping hints that she was unhappy, as if that justified everything. Like I was supposed to pick up on her subtle cues and somehow conclude, oh, my wife is clearly having an affair. I should be more understanding. After the initial confrontation, we had a long, painful conversation about what had led us to this point. She tried to put some of the blame on me, saying I had been emotionally distant after our daughter was born. I reminded her that I was the one who had been trying to connect with her for years. While she shut me out, she had no real response to that. We agreed to try and keep things as amicable as possible for our daughter's sake. There is no point in dragging each other through the mud any more than necessary. We are both going to need to co-parent for many years to come, so we might as well find a way to be civil. We sat our daughter down together and explained that we are splitting up, but we both love her more than anything. We kept it simple, emphasizing that it was not her fault, and that both Mommy and Daddy would still be in her life every day. My daughter was understandably upset and is having a tough time with everything. She asked if we could all still live together, which broke my heart. I have been looking into therapy options for her and have made it clear that she can always tell me how she is feeling. This is honestly the hardest part of everything so far. Telling our families was another nightmare. My parents were supportive but sad. They have always liked my wife, and I think they had hopes we would work things out somehow. Her parents were more complicated. Her dad seemed disappointed in her, while her mom kept trying to suggest ways we could fix things, as if there was anything left to fix at this point. My sister was furious on my behalf and wanted all the details of the affair, which I refused to give. I do not see how rehashing it all would help anyone. We also had to tell our friends, which was awkward as hell. Most of them were couples we had known for years. Some took sides immediately, while others tried to stay neutral. A few admitted they had suspected something was wrong for a while, but did not know how to bring it up. One of my wife's friends actually confessed she knew about the affair, but did not tell me because she did not want to get involved. That friendship is over, obviously. My wife and I are going to stay geographically close for our daughter's sake. I am moving into a condo in early January, and my wife is going to move in with her co-worker about 15 minutes away. With the sale of our house, I will be able to pay off a large portion of my new place, which is something at least. I have been house hunting for a few weeks now, which is a whole other level of stress I did not need. The real estate market in our area is brutal right now, but I think I have found a decent place. It is smaller than our house, obviously, but it has a nice little yard and a second bedroom for my daughter. It is in a complex with a pool, which I know she will love in the summer. According to the lawyer, we can have everything wrapped up by New Year's if it goes smoothly, but with the holidays coming up, I will be happy with early January. There is a lot of paperwork and financial stuff to sort through. Luckily, we are both being relatively reasonable about the division of assets. We are going to split custody, with me having the weekdays and my wife having weekends. It is not ideal, but it is what works with our schedules. In the meantime, I am going to start rebuilding my life. I never got married with the intention of getting divorced, but this is where we are. I'm going to work on rebuilding my life. I never got married with the intention of getting divorced, but here we are. I am going to work on myself and my relationship with my daughter. I'm planning to surprise her with a trip to Disney this winter. It will be expensive as hell, but I really want to make her happy and create some happy memories. I am going to miss her on the weekends. This entire situation still feels surreal at times. I will be going about my day and suddenly it hits me, I'm getting divorced. My marriage is over. It is a lot to process. Perhaps one day I will explain all this to my daughter when she is older and we can talk about it more. For now, I'm just focused on being the best dad I can possibly be. Thanks again for all the support and advice. It truly helped to have outside perspectives during this whole mess. Update 2. Hello again. I figured I would give one final update since some people have been messaging me asking how things turned out. My divorce is finalized, and I feel both exhausted and relieved. These were the longest 9 months of my life, and I'm happy it is finally over. I do feel a little empty inside sometimes, but I know that will pass in time. First off, thank you to everyone who sent supportive messages. It really helped during some of the darker moments of this process. There were definitely days when I questioned everything and wondered if I was making a huge mistake. So having that reassurance from strangers on the internet was surprisingly comforting. My ex-wife dragged parts of the process out more than needed, even though she said she didn't want to drag it out and divorce amicably, which was frustrating as hell. Just when I thought we had everything settled, she would bring up some new issue or demand. She kept changing her mind about the division of personal property. First, she did not want the dining set. Then she suddenly decided it had sentimental value. Then she did not want it again. The back and forth was exhausting. She ended up finding her own place instead of moving in with the coworker like she had planned, which she was not happy about. Apparently, things were not as perfect with him as she thought they would be. From what I have gathered, their relationship started hitting some rocky patches once it was out in the open, and they had to deal with real-life stuff instead of just the exciting sneaking around phase. I cannot say I'm surprised. She is also pregnant now. but neither of those things are my problem anymore. I found out through our daughter, who innocently mentioned that Mommy has a baby in her tummy. That was a fun conversation. Apparently, she is about 4 months along, which means she got pregnant, right around the time all of this was blowing up. She and the co-worker are still together, as far as I know, though I have heard it has been tense. I ended up with primary custody of our daughter. I get most weeknights and most weekends, plus travel. This was not what we originally planned, but my ex's situation changed, and this arrangement works better for everyone involved right now. She still sees our daughter on a regular basis, but with her morning sickness and general pregnancy exhaustion, plus her job, she agreed that our daughter would have more stability with me as the primary. My daughter and I are both doing well and adjusting to things. She still asks sometimes when we are all going to live together again, which is tough, but those questions are becoming less frequent. She is seeing a therapist who is helping her work through her emotions, and I tried to make the holidays special for her. The Disney trip was a hit, by the way. Expensive as hell, but it was worth every penny to see her that happy. We went for 4 days and did all the princess things she wanted. She got to meet Elsa, which was apparently the highlight of her entire life so far. I have about 1,000 pictures of her, grinning with various Disney characters. Those memories are priceless. This will be my final update. I am ready to close this chapter and move forward with my life. Thank you for listening to my story and for all the support along the way. Go on to the next story. Apologies if this is lengthy, there's a lot to go over. 2 years back, I finally got divorced from a monster named Devis. I don't use that term lightly. He was genuinely terrible as a partner. He exhausted me emotionally, mentally, and financially. The hardest part is that I was so blinded by love that I offered him everything I had, while he just kept taking without giving anything in return. Devis and I were together for a few years before we got married. In that time, he never held down a steady job. He would be hired somewhere, work for a month or two, and then either quit because he couldn't deal with the manager or be fired for arriving late or not showing up. This was aggravating, but I believed he was at least making an effort. I was employed full-time at an office job that paid pretty well, so we were able to get by mainly on my income. I continued to tell myself that he simply hadn't discovered his passion yet. Then something unforeseen happened. I became pregnant. We were not planning this whatsoever. I was using birth control, but I suppose I was one of those uncommon cases where it didn't work. When I initially told Devis, he genuinely seemed excited. He began talking about becoming a dad and how he planned to teach our child to play sports and all those things. Before I could even consider what to do, Devis urged me to get married. He said it was vital that our child be born into a proper family with married parents. Back then, it appeared he was being thoughtful and responsible. I was already in love with him and wanted to create a happy family. I agreed to marry him, believing it was for the best. We held a small ceremony at the courthouse with only my parents and a few friends as witnesses. My sister Samia was unable to make it because she was going through one of her phases back then, but once we were married, things became worse. Devis gave up trying entirely. It seemed like as soon as he had that ring on my finger, he figured his work was finished. He used all his money for gambling and drinking. Each day he would be out until very late with strangers at bars. I would try to call him, but he would either not answer my calls or pick up and be so intoxicated he could hardly speak. In the meantime, I was pregnant, working full-time, and struggling to keep us financially stable. I handled all the bills and got ready for the baby on my own. I continued to hope things would get better, but they never did. Our apartment was constantly a mess since Devis refused to clean up after himself. He would leave empty beer cans and food containers all over the place. When I requested his help, he would claim he was too tired or that cleaning was a woman's job. I was worn out from working all day and being pregnant, yet I still needed to come home and clean because I couldn't bear living in such a mess. One evening I woke up feeling extremely ill. I was horrified when I saw that I was bleeding. I attempted to call Devis for help, but as was typical, he wasn't there. When he finally picked up, he refused to take me to the hospital. He said I was being overdramatic and shouldn't disturb him when he was with his friends. I could hear music and people laughing in the background. When I began to cry, he hung up on me. I had to get myself to the hospital, frightened and in pain. I recall gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles went white, praying that everything would turn out all right. When I arrived, I was immediately taken to the emergency room. After a few tests, the doctors confirmed my greatest fear. I had lost the baby. I was completely heartbroken. I lay there by myself in the hospital bed, sobbing for hours. When Devis at last showed up the next morning, he smelled strongly of alcohol and cigarettes. He hadn't even taken the time to shower or change his clothes. When the doctor explained what had occurred, Devis's response was to blame me. He said it was my fault, and that God had taken the baby away to give it to someone more deserving. He actually said that to me in front of the doctor. The doctor looked stunned, but said nothing. For weeks afterward, I was overwhelmed with grief. Devis didn't console me. He only made me feel worse. He would look at me with disgust whenever he saw me. He began sleeping on the couch, saying he couldn't bear to be near me. He told his friends and family that I had killed our baby by working too much or not taking proper care of myself. It was all lies, but they bought it. Then Devis lost his job, again. He had been working at a warehouse for about 3 months, which was in fact a record for him. He was fired for showing up intoxicated. Instead of searching for another job, he completely gave up. He spent the entire day playing video games, leaving messes all over, and doing nothing to contribute around the house. He would be up all night playing games and sleep all day while I was at work. He began asking me for money to go out drinking or to gamble. When I said no, he would go into my purse while I was asleep and take it anyway. Some days I would open my wallet to buy lunch at work and discover all my cash was missing. When I confronted him about it, he would deny it, even though there was nobody else who could have taken it. Living this way was awful for my health. I lost weight because I couldn't eat due to stress. I couldn't sleep because I was constantly anxious about money and our future. I was so overwhelmed that I almost took my own life twice. I actually wrote a suicide note once, but I tore it up because I couldn't follow through with it. Despite seeing how much I was struggling, Devis still expected me to cook for him, clean up after him, and do everything he desired. He never paid attention when I asked for help. One morning I woke up and discovered that Devis had taken my credit card and maxed it out at a casino. That was the final straw. I understood something needed to change. I couldn't continue living like this. When I finally asked Devis for a divorce, he turned violent. He had never struck me before, although he had come close a few times when he was extremely drunk. This time, he completely lost control. He beat me up badly, then took my car keys, phone, and wallet, so I couldn't get out of the house. He threatened me, saying I would never be permitted to divorce him and would have to continue paying for everything forever. I was petrified. I had bruises all over my arms and face, and my lip was split. Devis locked me in our bedroom and went out drinking again. I believe he expected me to just accept what had occurred and be there when he returned, like I always had been. But something inside me had broken. I was not going to be his punching bag any longer. The following day, while he was asleep, passed out drunk, actually I got away and called the police from my neighbor's house. The police arrived and arrested Devis. I had to go to the hospital to have my injuries documented. The doctor who checked me said I had a mild concussion and several contusions. I still have the medical records from that day. Since it was his first offense, as far as they knew, the court only ordered him to attend anger management classes. But this provided me grounds for divorce. During the divorce proceedings, Devis tried every dirty trick imaginable. He claimed I was the one who had been abusive to him. He attempted to gain access to my bank accounts. He even told the judge that I was mentally unstable and had tried to harm myself, twisting my suicidal thoughts against me. After a challenging process, with Davis attempting to make everything more difficult for me, I finally got divorced. I didn't take any money from him because I wanted a clean break, with nothing connecting us. He had no money anyway. Everything we owned was what I had earned. I moved to a different city, far away from him, and severed all contact. I blocked his number and all his social media accounts. I was finally free. Throughout all this time, I only told my parents parts of what was going on. I was too ashamed to share the full story. I told them we were having issues and that Davis wasn't employed, but I didn't tell them about the abuse or how bad things truly were. I didn't want them to worry, and frankly, I was embarrassed that I had allowed myself to get into this situation. Only after the divorce was finalized and I had begun to heal did I tell them the entire story. My parents and younger sister, Samia, were shocked to find out what I had been through. Samia has always been the problem child in our family. She dropped out of high school at 16 and has struggled with drugs. She would get clean for a period, then relapse. She's been in and out of rehab a couple of times. Although she's doing better now, working at a local diner, she still has a long way to go. My parents have always been more lenient with her than they were with me. I believe they felt guilty because they were stricter with me as the eldest, and they worried that's why Samia rebelled. Now, 2 years have gone by since my divorce, and my life is significantly better. I have a good job with a steady income. I've made some new friends in my new city. I even have my own small apartment. I've been able to send money to my parents, who are retired and living on a set income. The money I send helps them pay for groceries and medications. I know the money I send home also assists Samia, and I'm all right with that because they're my family. I'm just glad that I can help them while also looking after myself. This week, my parents called with major news. As soon as I picked up the phone, I could tell my mom was excited about something. They told me Samia was getting married. I was surprised, since I didn't know she was seeing anyone. The last I heard, she was concentrating on staying clean and working at the diner. When I asked who she was marrying, my parents paused. There was an awkward silence on the line. Then my mom said, "Now, honey, please don't overreact. We know this might be difficult for you to hear." Then they revealed Samia was going to marry my ex-husband, Davis. I thought I had heard them wrong at first. I even laughed and said, "Very funny. Who is she really marrying?" But they were serious. I was totally shocked. My own sister was planning to marry the man who had caused me so much suffering, the man who had beaten me and emotionally tormented me for years. I felt like I couldn't catch my breath. My mom explained that Samia and the family had avoided telling me earlier because they knew I would be upset. Like, no kidding, I'd be upset. She told me that Samia and Davis had met by chance some time ago when Davis came into the diner where Samia works. What began as a friendship quickly became a romance. According to my mom, they were already completely in love despite only being together for a couple of months. I asked my mom how this could possibly have occurred. Didn't they recall what Davis had done to me? Didn't they care? My mom said that people can change, and that Davis seemed different now. She said he had a steady job and had been very respectful towards them. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Samia had begun a relationship with Davis, knowing what he had done to me, and now he was going to be my brother-in-law? I couldn't comprehend how my family thought this was acceptable. Why had no one informed me sooner? Had they been seeing him behind my back for months while I was sending them money? My mom tried to persuade me to accept them. She said Davis appeared to have changed, and that Samia believed he could be a better person. Mom mentioned how happy Samia looked and suggested I should view this as a fresh start for everyone. But the thought of Samia marrying Davis made me feel ill. I know who Davis truly is. He's a master manipulator who knows exactly what to say to make people trust him. He did the same thing to me. I tried to explain to my mom that Samia didn't know who Davis really was. She couldn't possibly grasp the kind of person he truly was. I said my parents should have discouraged Samia from being with someone so toxic and violent. How could they endorse this relationship knowing what he had done to me? To my surprise, my dad got on the phone and admitted he had tried once or twice to talk to Samia about it, but she had been firm in her decision. She told them she was an adult and could make her own choices. Then Mom revealed that Devis had already met them for dinner and had told them that I was actually to blame for our divorce. According to Devis, I had made his life difficult and had him arrested for no reason. He said I was controlling and jealous, and that I had exaggerated things to make him look bad, and my parents believed him. My mom suggested I should take some responsibility too. I was stunned. How could my own mother believe this was somehow my fault? That man had beaten me. I had the hospital records and the police report to prove it. My dad then asked if maybe I hadn't moved on from Devis yet, if I was still in love with him. Of course I had moved on. This was about my sister bringing a toxic person back into our lives. This was about protecting her from someone I knew was dangerous. Dad said that if I had genuinely moved on, I wouldn't have a problem accepting their relationship. He said Samia and Davis were adults making their own choices, and I had to stop making this about myself. Mom urged me to let the past go and be supportive of my sister. After all, family is family, she said. I was furious and hurt. I ended the call because I was too upset to keep talking. Since then, my parents have been calling and texting me constantly, calling me selfish for not being happy for my sister. They're pressuring me to welcome Devis back into my life, ignoring everything I've been through. I've tried to talk to my sister directly, but she won't answer my calls. She just texts me saying I should be happy for her and stop being jealous. Jealous? Of her marrying my abusive ex? Is she fucking kidding me? How could she possibly think I'm jealous when all I want is to protect her? I've seen firsthand what Devis is capable of, and I don't want my sister to go through the same hell I did. Then yesterday my mom called again, and they expect me to come to the wedding and be a bridesmaid. I told her absolutely not, and she started crying, saying I was ruining Samia's special day. My dad got on the phone and said if I don't come to the wedding, I shouldn't bother coming home ever again. He said I was being selfish and childish. Some of my old friends from home have been messaging me too, saying I should try to be supportive of Samia. None of them know the complete story of what happened between me and Devis. I never told anyone but my family after the divorce. I'm not sure if I should reveal everything now just to defend myself. I'm stuck. I either attend this wedding and watch my sister marry my abuser while pretending to be happy about it, or I lose my entire family. I don't want to lose my family, but I don't know if I can mentally handle seeing Devis again, let alone standing next to my sister while she marries him. I honestly don't know what to do. I've worked so hard to rebuild my life after Devis. I don't want him back in it, even as my brother-in-law. AITA for refusing to support my sister's marriage to my abusive ex-husband and potentially cutting off my family. Update 1. Thank you everyone for your kind comments. I'm glad I shared this here, as I've received more support from strangers than from my own family. To address some common questions I've been seeing in the comments. 1. Yes, my family knows everything about Devis. After the divorce, I told them the whole story, including the abuse, the gambling, the drinking, and how he treated me after my miscarriage. They know he was arrested for assaulting me. They've seen the pictures of my bruises. 2. No, I don't think Devis has actually changed. I know this type of person. They can put on a good show when they need to, but eventually the mask slips. 3. I didn't mention this in my original post, but Devis is also quite a bit older than Samia. I am 4 years older than Samia, and Devis is 6 years older than me. So the age gap is substantial. To be clear, I'm not simply upset that Samia is marrying Devis. I'm horrified that she's chosen to be with someone like him at all. This isn't about some petty jealousy or me not being over him. I am completely over him. I would be just as distressed if she was dating any abusive person, regardless of their connection to me. This is a man who blamed me for losing our baby, who wouldn't take me to the hospital when I was bleeding, who beat me when I attempted to leave him, and who never contributed anything to our household. Knowing all this, it's devastating that my sister would even consider being with him. It feels like the ultimate betrayal. What's worse is that Devis has somehow convinced not just Samia, but also my parents, that I was partly to blame for our divorce, as if I didn't try everything to make our marriage work. He's rewriting history, and they're letting him do it. It's like everything I went through means nothing to them. As the oldest sibling, I've always felt responsible for Samia. Even with our ups and downs, I've always cared about her. When she was struggling with drugs, I was the one who helped find rehab facilities and paid for her treatment. I've bailed her out of trouble more times than I can count. That's why this situation hurts so much. I can't watch her make the same mistakes I did. I've decided to schedule a video call with my parents and Samia this week. I want to confront them about this situation and make them realize who Davis really is and what he's capable of. I'll remind them of everything I went through because of him and plead with them to see reason before it's too late. This won't be a simple conversation, but I must try. If Samia still decides to marry him after this, at least I'll know I did everything I could to protect her. I still have the police report and medical records from when Devas assaulted me. I'm considering showing these to my family during our call. Perhaps seeing the actual evidence will make them understand this isn't just me being difficult. I will update you all after the call. Wish me luck. Update 2. The video call with my family went horribly. I had prepared everything I wanted to say. I even wrote it down so I wouldn't become too emotional and forget important points. I showed them all the evidence I had, including medical records documenting Devis's abuse. I even found some old texts from him where he threatened me, but I wanted to show them proof of what he had done to me, not to make it about myself, but to warn Samia about the kind of man she was dealing with. I thought perhaps seeing the actual evidence would make them understand. I was mistaken. Instead of understanding, Samia immediately defended Davis. She claimed he had suffered just as much during our marriage and accused me of seeking attention. She said I had always been jealous of her and was just trying to ruin her happiness. She said Devis told her I had provoked him into attacking me and that I was wrong to call the police when he assaulted me. According to her, I should have handled it privately instead of shaming him by involving the police. Samia even made a cruel remark about my miscarriage, saying it was probably for the best that I lost the baby, since I wasn't meant to be Devis's wife or the mother of his child. She said some people just aren't meant to be parents, looking directly at me when she said it. I broke down crying when she said that. It was so incredibly painful. I couldn't believe those words were coming out of my sister's mouth. Throughout the call, my parents mostly remained silent. When they did speak, they tried to calm us down rather than taking a side. They didn't defend me when Samia said those awful things. They just sat there looking uncomfortable. Finally, my dad spoke up, but not to defend me. He said they'd watched Devis closely to make sure he wouldn't harm Samia like he harmed me, as if that's any comfort. Then my dad told me that Devis was going to move in with them after marrying Samia, the house that I've been helping pay bills for with the money I send them every month. I argued that this was a terrible idea, but Dad yelled that it was his house and his decision. He said it was right for Devis to move into Samia's room after the wedding, since they didn't have their own place yet. My parents claimed this arrangement would help Samia and Devis save money while allowing them to keep an eye on them. What they really meant is that Devis doesn't have a job that pays enough for them to live on their own, so they need my parents' support, and indirectly, my financial support. I warned my parents that once they let Devis in, he would never leave. He's a freeloader who will drain their resources and bring chaos into their home. He will take advantage of their kindness just as he took advantage of mine. I asked if they truly believed Devis had changed. My mom said maybe he wasn't as much in love with me as he is with Samia, and perhaps this time he would be better. That comment broke something inside me. My own mother was suggesting that Devis's abuse was somehow my fault, that he beat me because he didn't love me enough, but he wouldn't beat Samia because he loves her more. It was victim blaming of the worst kind, and it came from the person who should have been protecting me. I told my parents that if this was how they were going to handle things, I would cut off contact with them. I was against Devis and Samia's relationship and wanted no part of it. I also said I would no longer send them money, as I didn't want to support Devis. I refused to financially contribute to a household that would include my abuser. When my parents heard this, they argued that it was unfair for me to cut them off. Samia said even if I stopped talking to them, I should at least continue sending money. She mentioned she was planning to quit her job to become a stay-at-home wife for Devis, and they needed my money since Devis didn't earn much. I pointed out that if she wanted that lifestyle, Devis should fund it, not me. Why would I pay for my sister to stay home with the man who abused me? Samia screamed at me, accusing me of punishing them out of jealousy, saying I was upset because she had won Devis for me, as if he was some prize to be won, not an abusive, alcoholic gambler who had made my life a living hell. I stood my ground. I said that I was done being their ATM if they were going to bring Devis into the family. Since that conversation, I've completely cut ties with my family. I've blocked their numbers and emails. It's painful, but I know it was the right choice. I can't continue to have a relationship with people who would choose my abuser over me, who would expect me to financially support the man who beat me. Some family members have reached out to tell me I'm being too harsh, that families should forgive each other, but this isn't about forgiveness. It's about self-protection. I spent years being abused by Devis, and I will not put myself in a position to be emotionally abused by my family as well. I still worry about Samia, but I can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped. I've done everything I can to warn her about Devis. If she still chooses to marry him, that's her decision. I just won't be there to pick up the pieces when it all falls apart. Update 3. It's been a while since my last update. I want to thank everyone who has been supporting me through this nightmare. Your comments and messages have meant a lot to me during this difficult time. I've learned from my cousins that Samia and Devis have broken up. Samia caught him cheating just a week before their wedding, and she was furious. Apparently, she found text messages on his phone from another woman. Given what I know about Devis, this isn't surprising. He's always been a liar and a cheater. I feel somewhat vindicated. I was right about him not changing. The funny thing is, Samaya didn't believe me when I told her Devis was bad news, but she immediately believed the text messages. I guess some evidence is more convincing than my records. My cousin told me that Samia confronted Devis, and he didn't even try to deny it. He just shrugged and said it wasn't a big deal. The wedding has been called off, obviously. My cousin said Samia has been crying for days and refuses to leave her room. I feel bad for her, despite everything. Since the breakup, my parents have been trying desperately to contact me. They've called from different numbers since I blocked theirs. They've asked relatives to convince me to talk to them now that Samia and Devis are no longer getting married. They want to fix things between us, but I'm standing firm. I'm pretty sure they just want my money back. Their sudden change of heart isn't about concern for me. It's about wanting my financial support again. My life is much better now without my family. My career is going well, and I've started dating someone new. He's kind and respectful. I'm not willing to risk my peace just because my family regrets their mistakes. They turned on me quickly to defend Devis and Samia's bad decisions. What's to stop them from doing it again if Samia takes Devis back or finds another toxic partner? For those concerned about my safety, don't worry. I live in a secure apartment with cameras. If Devis ever shows up, I will have him arrested. I've also told my workplace not to give out any information about me to anyone. I'm taking all necessary precautions. My cousin keeps me updated occasionally. She says my parents are struggling financially now that I'm not sending them money anymore. They were more dependent on my support than I realized. I kind of feel guilty about that, but they made their choice when they chose to believe Devis's lies over my truth. I'm focusing on my own life now. I've started therapy to deal with the trauma from my marriage and the recent family drama. It's helping me realize that I wasn't wrong to cut them off. Sometimes maintaining your own mental health means removing toxic people from your life, even if they're family. Update 4. It's been a while since my last update. Life has been pretty good for me lately. I received a promotion at work, and things are getting serious with the guy I've been dating. It's amazing how much better life can be when you're not surrounded by toxic people. My parents recently emailed me saying my dad had an accident and broke his hand. They claim some medical bills aren't covered by insurance, and they've fallen behind on other bills. Now they want me to pay for everything. They're complaining that Samia isn't helping them, which doesn't surprise me at all. She's never been good with money or responsibility. What's interesting is how they're suddenly apologizing to me. They say they now realize how wrong they were and how badly they treated me. They mentioned they should have listened to me about Devis and are sorry for pushing me away. They're acting like I owe them something just because my dad got hurt. The timing is suspicious, to say the least. I also heard from my cousin that Samia is back on drugs. After the breakup with Devis, she spiraled downward again. She lost her job at the diner and has been staying out all night with friends. My parents are at their wits' end with her, but they won't kick her out because they're afraid of what might happen to her. I don't know if I believe their apologies are sincere. It seems like they only want to reconcile now because they need money, not because they've genuinely reflected on how they treated me. They haven't acknowledged the cruel things Samia said to me or how they failed to defend me. They haven't truly taken responsibility for choosing Devis over me. I haven't replied yet. I know my parents are getting older, and they may need more help as time goes on. But I don't want to be manipulated back into a relationship where I'm only valued for what I can provide financially. I don't want to be their backup plan now that Devis and Samia have disappointed them. It's difficult to know what the right thing to do is, but I still feel that pull of family obligation, that voice saying, "But they're your parents. What would you do in my position?" Oh, this is crazy. Now let's move on to the next story. Her and I have been together for about 5 years. We began dating in high school, junior year for me, sophomore for her. I still recall how nervous I felt asking her out after chemistry class. Honestly, I believed that we were on the path for the whole marriage and family thing. We got engaged a while ago and everything appeared perfect. I was so incredibly happy, man. Like the happiest I had ever been in my life. We had been talking about our future, where we would live, how many kids we wanted, all that stuff couples do when they figure they're going to spend their lives together. We even had a small apartment we were leasing together. She was finishing her degree, and I had been working full-time at this place my uncle helped me get into. The pay isn't incredible, but it's consistent and has benefits, which is better than many people our age have. We would go on dates each Friday, just a tradition we maintained. Sometimes just getting burgers and seeing a movie. Other times we'd try a new restaurant or go bowling and so on. We almost never fought about anything serious. Sure, we would bicker about normal things like whose turn it was to do dishes or what to watch on Netflix, but nothing major. Then one day she just caught me completely off guard. No warning signs, no arguments, nothing that would make me believe something was wrong. It was a Tuesday night, I believe, or maybe Wednesday. I had just come home from work and was watching some YouTube videos, waiting for her to return from class. She comes in and she looks strange, like she had been crying or something. She asks to talk and begins with, "You're not going to like what I have to say." She spends about 15 minutes crying and telling me how she will always love me, but apparently we had gotten together too young and she needed to be single for a while. I was confused as hell. What does that even mean? So I pushed her to explain what the hell she was talking about. I mean, we had been together for 5 years, we were engaged, we had a whole life together. You don't just toss that away because you need to be single. That is not how this works. She gave me this entire list of lame reasons that made zero sense. Something about not wanting to be responsible for my happiness, wanting to go places without worrying about me, and other nonsense that just left me more confused. She said she felt trapped and needed to find herself. Like, what the hell does that even mean? This is not some rom-com movie. This is our life. I told her she could already do all those things right now, and we did not need to break up. I offered to give her space or anything she needed. I even proposed we could take a break from wedding planning if that was causing her stress. I was desperate, trying to find any solution possible that did not involve us breaking up. But nothing was changing her mind. She just kept shaking her head and crying, saying she had already made up her mind. Finally it clicked, and I asked if this was truly about her wanting to date and see other people. She denied there was anyone in particular she wanted to date, but in the end admitted that, yes, that's essentially what she wanted to do. I was completely shattered by this, felt like someone had torn my heart out and was stomping on it right in front of me. She tried to tell me again that she loved me, and I just told her to keep that crap to herself. Then she had the audacity to ask if I was going to be okay. Like, what the hell kind of question is that? Of course I am not going to be okay. I told her that was no longer her problem and walked straight out. I drove around for hours that night, just trying to clear my mind. Ended up at my buddy Jake's place. He let me sleep on his couch for a few days while I figured out what to do. I could not stand being in our apartment. She tried calling and texting several times after that, but I just deleted it all without reading and blocked her on everything. Phone, social media, email, all of it. I wish I could say I handled it like a man and didn't care, but the reality is I fell into a really dark place for a time. Jake tried to get me to go out, meet new people, but I was not interested. Eventually, I went back to the apartment. She had moved most of her things out by then, left a note saying she was staying with her friend Amber for a while. I threw the note out without reading all of it. Those initial few weeks were the worst. I would come home from work and just sit in the dark, thinking about everything. I stopped eating regularly. I started drinking more than I should have. Called in sick to work a couple of times when I couldn't bring myself to get out of bed. My mom dropped by once or twice, tried to talk to me, but I just told her I was fine and needed some time. The one thing that kept me going was work. I threw myself into it, picking up extra shifts whenever I could. One of my coworkers, this older guy named Phil, noticed something was off and took me under his wing a bit. He had been through a nasty divorce years ago and would let me vent during lunch breaks. He never gave me any bullshit advice, just listened. That helped more than he likely knows. Fast forward about 3 months with no contact. I was doing a little better, not great, but functioning. I started hanging out with Jake and some other friends again. I even went on a date that my cousin set up, but it was awkward as hell, and I wasn't ready. Then yesterday happens. I'm pulling into my driveway when I spot a car parked across the street. Something about it looked familiar, but I didn't think much of it. Then she gets out and begins walking toward me. My first instinct was to just ignore her and go inside. I mean, what could she possibly have to say that I would want to hear? But as I'm walking toward my door, she calls out my name. I turn around and snap. What? And that is when I see it. She is obviously pregnant. I just stood there, not knowing what to say. Like, what do you even say in that situation? She apologizes for ambushing me, but says she has been trying to reach me for a while and knew I had her blocked. But she needed to talk to me. She said she had even come by a few times when I wasn't home and left notes, which I suppose must have blown away or something because I never saw them. I was not happy to see her at all, especially not pregnant with some other guy's kid after everything. I mean, she broke up with me to go be single and date other people, and apparently she wasted no time doing precisely that. I tell her we have nothing to talk about, and turn to go inside. That is when she yells that the baby is mine, which stops me dead in my tracks. At first I thought I had misheard her, or that it was some sort of sick joke. I turn back around and just stare at her for a minute. She is crying again, mascara running down her face. I ask her what the hell she is talking about. To make a long story short, she claims she is 4 months pregnant, which would mean she was about a month pregnant when she broke up with me but did not know it. She says she didn't even suspect until the 2nd month, when she missed her period, but got conflicting results on home pregnancy tests. Then she went to a clinic and got it confirmed. According to her, she spent the next month trying to convince herself to get an abortion but couldn't go through with it. She pleaded with me to let her come in so we could talk. Said she didn't feel comfortable discussing all this on my front lawn where the neighbors could hear. After standing there for what seemed like forever, I finally let her in. The apartment looked different with her in it again. I hadn't changed much since she left. Still had the same furniture, same pictures on the walls, though I had put the ones of us in a drawer somewhere. She noticed I still had the plant she had given me for my birthday last year. Seemed surprised it was still alive. I don't know why I kept watering that stupid thing. We sat on opposite ends of the sofa, as far from each other as possible. I was probably meaner than I should have been. I told her I didn't believe it was mine, that she wanted to go fuck other guys, and now she got knocked up by some dude who wants nothing to do with her. So she's running back to me, hoping I'll play daddy. She started crying and said I was right to think that, but swore she never even went out with anyone else. At this point, I was becoming really frustrated. I asked her if she really expected me to believe that she broke up with me to be single and date other people, but then just didn't? For 3 months? While pregnant? It made no sense. To summarize the rest of our conversation, she claimed she never went out with anyone else and never even had the chance. She swears she was telling the truth about not having anyone specific in mind when we broke up. She said she had this overwhelming feeling of panic and like she was missing out on something. But after we broke up, she realized what she was really missing was me. She thinks being pregnant made her hormonal and impulsive, and that the urge to break up with me came out of nowhere. She hadn't been planning it at all. Said she woke up the day after we broke up, feeling like she had made the biggest mistake of her life. She asked if I ever read any of her texts or emails. When I said no, she told me that the very next day after our breakup, she texted saying she wanted to talk and take it all back because she knew breaking up was a mistake. Apparently, she sent me dozens of messages over the next few weeks, trying to explain and apologize. I asked her why she didn't just come find me in person if it was so important. She said she did try, but I was either at work or at Jake's place. She even went to my mom's house once, but my mom told her I didn't want to see her and that she should respect that. I didn't even know about that until now. She said she didn't tell anyone at first. Not her parents, not her friends, nobody. She was in denial for a while, hoping it would just go away somehow. Then when she could no longer deny it, she considered abortion. She even made an appointment, but could not go through with it. That is when she started trying to reach me more urgently. By this point, we had been talking for a couple of hours. I got up to get some water and noticed she looked very tired. Pregnant women need to rest, right? I know nothing about this stuff. I asked if she wanted something to drink, and she asked for water too. So this is where I am right now after talking with her for hours. My heart is still messed up from all this. A part of me wants to just forget all my doubts and fears and take her back, be a husband and a father. I mean, that was the plan anyway, right? Just perhaps not so soon, and certainly not like this. But as much as I want that, I refuse to be a father to a kid that is not mine with a woman who left me to go sleep with other guys. I mean, I am not against being a stepdad someday, but I cannot do that with someone who deliberately shattered my heart. I have demanded a paternity test. Neither of us really knows how to arrange one, but she is going to ask her doctor at her next appointment. I don't know if we have to wait until the baby is born or what, but I need this for my own peace of mind. She says she is fine with it because she has zero doubt it's mine since she claims she has not been with anyone else. She showed me ultrasound photos. I got a little choked up seeing them, thinking that could be my kid in there. But I cannot let myself go there until I know for certain. I can't get my hopes up just to have them smashed again. Before she departed, she gave me a letter she said she had written about a month ago. Said she had been carrying it around, hoping to give it to me if she ever had the chance to talk to me. I did not read it until after she was gone. In it, she talks about deeply regretting hurting me, how much she loves me, and how breaking up was the biggest mistake of her life. She says she panicked about the future and let her fears get the better of her. There was a lot in there about how she wants us to be a family, how she has thought about nothing else for months. I do not know what to believe anymore. She appeared sincere, but then again, she seemed happy with me, right up until the moment she was not. How do I know this is not just another impulse that she will regret later? Here is what I am struggling with. 1. If the kid is mine, where do I go from here? Do I try to make things work with her for the baby's sake? Do I just co-parent and maintain my distance emotionally? I know what my parents would say. They are old school and would expect me to do the right thing and marry her. But is that the right thing for any of us? 2. How can I believe she has not been with anyone else since she left me? Even if the child is mine, that does not mean she didn't sleep with someone else after getting pregnant. I know it might make me an asshole, but if that is what happened, I do not want her back. I could not handle that sort of betrayal, even if technically we were broken up. 3. If the kid is not mine, this is obviously a non-issue, because that is a hard no for me, without question. I would be cutting contact again immediately. She says she is willing to do whatever it takes to make things work. She has offered to pay for couples counseling and give me any kind of transparency I want. Said I could have access to her phone, her email, whatever would make me feel secure. I think that is a good sign. Why would she offer that if she had something to hide? I told her I needed time to think and process all of this. She appeared disappointed but understood. She left her new number and address. She is still staying with Amber, and asked me to call her when I was ready to talk more. She said her next doctor's appointment is in a week, and she would like me to be there if I can. My head is absolutely spinning right now. 4 months ago, I would have been overjoyed to become a father and make this woman my wife. Those feelings are still there, but now they are all mixed up with pain, hurt, and distrust. I keep going back and forth between wanting to believe her and thinking this is all some elaborate lie or manipulation. I called Jake after she left and told him everything. He thinks I should get the paternity test before making any decisions, which I was already planning on doing. But he also cautioned me not to get sucked back in just because of the baby. Said I should be sure it is her I want, not just the idea of having a family. My mom keeps calling, but I have not answered yet. I'm not ready to tell her about all this. She never really liked my ex that much anyway. Always said we got too serious too young. I guess she was right about that. I have not been able to sleep much since she showed up. Keep thinking about what it would be like to be a dad, whether I would be any good at it. My own dad was not around much when I was growing up, always working. I do not want to be like that, but I also do not want to force myself into a relationship that is not right just because of a kid. Any advice would be appreciated. I feel like I am drowning here. Edit. There are way too many to reply to individually, so I will add this update to answer the main points people keep bringing up. I heard what everyone was saying about me having issues with how I have handled this. I get it. I have been an ass about some things. I was totally ignorant about pregnancy hormones, but I have read up on it today and see how this could have affected her. From what I am reading, it really can mess with your head in ways I never realized. Please understand that when I wrote this, I had just finished talking with her, and my emotions were raw and confused. I did not mean to come across like such a jerk. To the people asking if I have ever loved her at all, yes, of course I have. I love her with all my heart. I know that now, and knew it last night. That is why this has been so hard. If I didn't care, I wouldn't be this torn up about it. For those saying I should have at least read her messages, you're right. I probably should have. But at the time, I was too hurt and angry to think clearly. It was easier to just block it all out. I realize now that was immature. To answer the most common question, yes, it is possible to do a paternity test before birth. Apparently, they can do it with a blood test from the mother now, though it is expensive. We are looking into options. I cannot answer all your questions because I am heading out to talk with her again. I cannot let this go. I have been given a second chance with her, and that is all I want. I am still going to ask for a paternity test just for my peace of mind. I hope she understands, even though I know it might hurt her feelings. I think I am just going to take a leap of faith and trust that everything she said about hormones and never really wanting to break up is true. Sorry to anyone I offended because I came across as a grade A douchebag. This situation has brought out the worst in me, but I am trying to do better. Update. Can't believe how much this blew up. Thanks for all the comments, even the ones calling me names and stuff. I guess I deserve some of that. A lot of you were asking for an update, so here it is. I wanted to give everyone an update on what has happened since the weekend. A lot has happened. Well, not really that much, but it feels like a lot to me. After reading your comments and doing some research, I found out that pregnancy hormones can really mess with some people's minds. Like, way more than I ever realized. I read stories from women who made crazy impulsive decisions, had complete personality changes, or developed weird phobias during pregnancy. It made me realize that maybe what happened wasn't entirely her fault. I went to the apartment where she's staying with her friend Amber. I was nervous as hell on the drive over, kept changing the radio station because nothing sounded right. I almost turned around twice, but made myself keep going. When I got there, Amber opened the door and seemed surprised to see me. She gave me this look, like she wasn't sure whether to let me in or slam the door in my face. I'd always gotten along okay with Amber before all this, but I guess she has been there for my ex through everything, so she's protective now. Amber was nice enough to leave so we could have a long talk. She made a point of saying she was just going to the coffee shop down the street and would be back in 2 hours, which I think was her way of warning me not to upset her pregnant friend. I will spare you all the details, but it was long, painful, and filled with crying, mostly by me, embarrassingly enough. I completely broke down. Any pretense of being strong and unaffected just washed away within minutes. She makes me really vulnerable, and while I don't like that much, once I got everything off my chest, I felt 1,000,000 times better. She was patient, kind, and loving. This was the girl I have known all these years. We talked about everything, and what had happened in the 3 months we were apart. I told her how devastated I was, how I couldn't understand why she would throw away everything we had. She listened and just kept apologizing, saying she didn't have a good explanation other than she felt overwhelmed and panicked. From her side, she confirmed she never went out with anyone else. She did have 2 guys who knew we were broken up ask her out, but she told the first one she wasn't ready, and by the time the second one asked, she already knew she was pregnant. She showed me her phone and said I could look through her messages if I wanted to, but I didn't feel the need to. Something about the way she was talking to me made me believe her. She told me about how lonely she had been these past months, how she would cry herself to sleep almost every night, regretting what she had done. She said she would drive by my work sometimes, hoping to catch a glimpse of me, but never had the courage to come in. She had written me dozens of letters that she never sent because she didn't think I would read them. The pregnancy has been hard on her. She has been sick a lot, had to take time off from school. Her parents were upset at first, but have come around and are being supportive now. She hasn't told them we are talking again yet. After hours of talking, we ended up falling into each other's arms. By this time, Amber had texted saying she was heading back, so my ex came home with me to continue our conversation. I was nervous about having her back in our old apartment, but it felt right somehow. We stayed up almost all night just talking. She told me about her doctor's appointments, showed me more ultrasound pictures. We talked about names, both agreeing we didn't want to know the gender until birth. We ended up spending the whole weekend together. I will be honest, I thought I might be grossed out by the pregnant sex thing because I have never even thought about it before. I would not have even considered it if I thought for a second the kid wasn't mine, but it was not weird at all. Well, a little weird maybe, but in a good way. That is the big takeaway from all this. I now believe her 100%, and here is why. She is the one insisting on a paternity test. If she wasn't sure, she probably wouldn't push for it. But she says she has never been with anyone else, and I believe her now. She said she wants us to have the test so that I never have any doubts, and we can move forward with complete trust. Yesterday, she had a pre-scheduled OB/GYN appointment and arranged for me to go with her. I was nervous about it, never having been to one of these before. Didn't know what to expect or if it would be awkward with the doctor. Here's the cool part. Her doctor is this guy who can't be more than his mid-30s or so, and he was the coolest person I've ever talked to. Seriously, if I met this guy away from the doctor's office, he'd be a first-rate bro. He didn't treat me like some clueless idiot, just explained everything as he went along. We did the exam, and I got to see the baby on the ultrasound. That's when it truly hit me that I'm going to be a dad. The doctor pointed out various parts. The head, the spine, little arms and legs, said everything appeared healthy and normal. The heartbeat was so quick, like a little drum. I'm not an emotional guy usually, but that got to me. After the exam, the doctor asked her if now was a good time for the talk, and she said yes. I had no clue what was happening, but she explained she wanted him to speak with me, and that it was her idea. She left, and the doctor and I chatted. He said my girlfriend had spoken with him about everything over a month ago, and while he could not discuss her medical condition specifically, he wanted me to understand the facts about female hormones and how they can impact women during pregnancy. Like I said, coolest guy ever, he broke it down so I could understand. He talked about how pregnancy causes massive hormonal changes that can affect mood, decision-making, and even personality. Said it's not uncommon for women to have moments of panic or make impulsive decisions, especially early in pregnancy when hormones are going crazy but they don't even know they are pregnant yet. He also mentioned that she had talked to him yesterday about paternity testing and they were setting it up for next week. He said for both our peace of mind, we should go ahead with it, even though based on her history and the timeline, he had no reason to doubt the baby was mine. He also spent a few minutes talking about how I was feeling and even shared a story about how he and his wife nearly separated over a pregnancy-related issue. They had been fighting a lot during her first trimester, and he had actually moved out briefly before they worked things out. Now they have 3 kids and are happier than ever. He said sometimes the hardest times can lead to the strongest relationships if you're willing to work through them together. I left that day feeling 100% confident that this is a relationship worth fighting for. I honestly think she just had a crisis caused by a mix of frustration, hormones, and emotions, and she didn't even understand why she was having those feelings. It doesn't excuse what happened, but it helps explain it, and that is enough for me to move forward. Yesterday, we went to dinner with Jake and his girlfriend. It was a bit awkward at first. Jake kept giving her these suspicious looks, but by the end of the night, things felt almost normal. Jake pulled me aside at one point and asked if I was sure about all this. I told him I was, and he said he would support me whatever I decided. I just finished moving her things back to my house about a few hours ago. Not everything. She is keeping some things at Amber's until we get settled, but enough that she can stay here comfortably. When she gets off work tonight, we are going to start our journey to make this work. I am not rushing things because either of us might have built up emotions we are not even aware of yet. But I already have a ring, the same one she gave back when we broke up. I couldn't bring myself to return it. And if all goes well for a month or 2, I am going to ask her to marry me again. Both our families would prefer us to be married before having a child. Which reminds me, now I have to tell my parents they are going to be grandparents. And also that we are back together. That should be fun. My mom is going to have a lot to say about all this, I am sure. Her parents already know about the baby, of course, but not that we are trying again. Her mom also never liked me much to begin with, so that is going to be an interesting conversation. Amber helped us move some of her stuff and seemed happy for us, though she did pull me aside and give me the "if you hurt her again" speech. I assured her that was not going to happen. But I understand where she is coming from. She has been there through all of this, seen all the tears and pain. Anyway, thank you all so much for helping set me straight. I wanted to believe her, but didn't buy the hormone thing. Thanks to some of your stories, I now know better. The paternity test is scheduled for next week. I know what the results will be, but it is good to have that confirmation so we can move forward without any doubts or questions. I might update again if anything significant happens. Next story. I'm 22M, and my brother Felix, 18M, is adopted. My parents rescued him from an abusive household when he was a kid, so they were always very protective of him, and he was always the favorite. I'm not aiming to sound like I'm complaining, it's simply the truth. This caused me to feel resentful toward him as I grew up. Even though Felix is an adult who just started college, my parents still spoil him. Until he moved out, they prepared his meals, and they still arrange his doctor's appointments, something they didn't do for me at his age. I doubt Felix even knows how to do his own laundry. They purchased him a new laptop for university, whereas I had to save to buy my own. They co-signed for his apartment, while I had to reside in the dorms with a random roommate who stole my stuff. Just small things like that. I met Emma, 21F, at university, and we've been together for about 3 years. She's incredibly sweet, funny, beautiful, and we're extremely close. We've discussed moving in together once we graduate, and she's even brought up wanting to marry me someday, although we're clearly too young right now. I truly believe she was the one, honestly. We even share this silly inside joke where when one of us asks, "So what are you thinking for dinner?" the other has to respond, "I was thinking maybe you." And then we both laugh. It's dumb, but it's our thing. Felix was accepted into the same university as me, and while he likely could have attended a better one, he got into 3 Ivy Leagues with scholarships. Our parents made him go to mine. They believed it would be safer and simplify visits if we resided in the same city. They didn't even talk it over with me. They were like, "Isn't it great? You two can spend more time together," even though we hardly spent time together at home. Anyway, I suspect my girlfriend Emma is keen on Felix, and it pains me to consider it. And this is probably my fault. When I was assisting Felix with his class selection, because naturally our parents requested I do so, his major overlapped with Emma's, so I enrolled him in a couple of hers. This is because A, I didn't know what else on earth to base it on, and B, if they were in the same class, I could meet them afterward and show Felix around campus, or offer him a ride to the grocery store, etc., and also get to see my girlfriend. I never even considered what could go awry. On the first day when I went to meet them after their class, I introduced them to one another, and we went to grab food at this sandwich spot on campus. I noticed they were getting along exceptionally well. She laughed at his jokes, inquired about random facts from their studies, and then expressed wonder at how intelligent he was after he knew the answer. Don't misunderstand, Emma was still far more affectionate towards me, so at that point I just thought she was being her typically sweet self. She's kind to everyone. It's one of the things I love about her. But over time, their friendship became increasingly difficult for me to tolerate. Felix has a manner of interacting with others that comes across as very flirtatious, and he doesn't appear to realize it. For instance, one time we had a friend get together at our place, and Felix told one of the girls that she was so attractive that if he saw her photo being used to sell frames at a store, he'd purchase the entire shelf or something similar. Yet he appeared surprised when she later asked him out, and he declined. He exhibits this behavior with everyone, even other guys, and now with Emma. It frustrates me immensely because no one else perceives this behavior as creepy the way I do, but I guarantee if an unattractive guy behaved like Felix, suddenly my parents wouldn't find it nearly as charming. I fucking hate how every time Felix meets someone new, they're immediately obsessed with him. It's been like this our entire lives, and it's simply because he possesses those fucking dimples and that innocent puppy dog expression that makes people want to safeguard him. Meanwhile, I'm just the dull, ordinary brother. Even at his welcoming dinner with my friends, everyone was doting on how charming and amusing he was while I simply sat there feeling foolish. The first incident that bothered me was when we went to a restaurant because my parents were in town, and Emma was invited. She remarked on how delicious her food was. Felix asked if he could sample some, and she agreed. But instead of taking some from her plate in a typical way, he softly pulled her sleeve, directed her spoon to his mouth, and thanked her. She merely giggled. Am I mistaken for seeing that as intimate? My girlfriend feeding my brother from her spoon. My parents simply found it adorable. That's when I began to observe small details. On another occasion, when we were at a bar, they allowed Felix entry because my friend is employed there. Despite him not being 21, Emma requested he take a picture of us. But after capturing one of only us, he captured one with only him and Emma, without my permission. His arm was around her waist. She had uploaded the photo of them together on Instagram, captioned Science Buddies, along with a heart emoji. She did not upload the one of us. Following that, I began to observe more things. If she changes her look, Felix will observe and praise her. He quipped that if biology doesn't succeed for her, she could readily turn to a modeling career. I've heard him utter this kind of stuff to numerous girls, so I informed Emma it signifies nothing. She appeared strangely let down when I mentioned that. He has also invited us to spend time with him previously, and even if I'm unable to join them, he'll still ask her to go with just the two of them. Who on earth asked their brother's girlfriend to spend time alone? He once messaged her, inquiring if she wished to have lunch because he was close to her apartment. She agreed, even though we had arrangements to view a movie later. She ended up arriving late for our plans because their lunch extended, and she returned with a small present he'd purchased for her. But still, she appeared quite excited about it. Emma has never deterred him. Initially, she would brush it off with a dismissive laugh, but as time passed, it became evident she was relishing the attention. She started discussing him frequently, like amusing things he did in class, and inquired a few times about what he was like when he was younger. Once the winter quarter commenced, they enrolled in some classes together, and for the first time, Emma didn't bother to invite me to join any of hers. I used to attend at least one of her classes weekly, despite being an econ major, just to spend time with her, but she didn't even mention it this time. They would spend time together after class without me. They shared these private jokes I didn't comprehend. On one occasion, I heard her refer to him as Lab Rat as a nickname, and he called her Microscope, and they both burst into laughter. I inquired about its meaning, and Emma simply stated, "Oh, it's just a silly thing from class," and changed the topic. And when the three of us did spend time together, she would increasingly direct her attention toward him, gazing at him with a smile as if he were the most wonderful thing. I simply wish she would look at me the way she once did. I recall that before Felix appeared, Emma would text me constantly, as though we were always in communication. Now, at times, hours pass before she replies, but when I'm with her and Felix texts, she responds immediately. I've looked at her phone. I know that's bad, but I was growing paranoid, and saw that they text almost daily. Nothing overtly romantic, but they converse more than I'd realized. They exchange links to songs they believe the other would enjoy. She no longer does that with me. One day I overheard her and her friend in my apartment, where her friend complained there are no men in our major with both brains and brawn. They're in STEM, so all the guys there are likely built like the Chicago bean. And Emma softly responded, "That's not true. Just look at Felix." I must confess I wept on my floor that night, literally sitting against the wall in my bedroom, crying. Emma has told me I'm intelligent previously, but never with that same admiring tone she used for Felix. And she has certainly never remarked on my physique in that manner to her friends, to my knowledge. The absolute worst incident was when our group of friends was at McDonald's. We were joking about this flyer we'd seen on campus, seeking nude models who were compensated very well. Suddenly, Emma, right in front of me, suggested Felix should enroll for it. This evolved into an uncomfortably prolonged conversation between Emma and a few other friends regarding my brother's physique and how he would be ideal for artists to sculpt. They phrased it crudely, though in a humorous way, and how he needed this. given he'd been job searching. They were saying things like, he'd be perfect with your swimmer's build, and the class would love to draw your shoulders. Emma kept being insistent, saying seriously, "You'd make so much money," genuinely trying to persuade him. Felix kept saying no and providing valid reasons why he didn't want to, but Emma remained pushy, telling him to apply. She and the others didn't quit until Felix stopped replying. I just sat there like an idiot, eating my fries, while my girlfriend discussed how my brother would make a great nude model. I'm not confrontational at all, but in the car ride home, I passively mentioned that entire conversation was kind of strange, and it was uncomfortable for me to hear about how much my own girlfriend and her friends wanted my brother to get naked. Me and Emma are the unserious type, and I said this in a rather joking way, but she seemed to take it earnestly. She said, "What?" Like my accusation was the most absurd thing she'd ever heard, and she said she was just trying to be a good older sister to Felix and help him get a job. I told her that while I want him to get hired too, it's not like I'd encourage him to do OnlyFans or something. She told me I'm sexualizing an innocent job, which I can understand. But I told her that regardless, Felix looked uncomfortable and probably felt sexualized since they were making comments about specific parts of his body. She became quite defensive, claiming she hadn't meant it that way. We went back and forth for a while about this, never truly raising our voices, but both feeling upset, and I ended up dropping her off at her own place instead of bringing her back to my apartment. Following that, things felt strange for a few days. She didn't message me as often. When she did message, she appeared distant, typing shorter messages than normal. I once saw her on campus with Felix, sitting on a bench and talking. I didn't go near them. I just observed from afar for a minute, then departed. I should also mention that ever since Felix relocated here, I've tried to become an extra good boyfriend for Emma. If Felix complimented her hair, I'd buy her an expensive hair product and compliment her even better. I've always spoiled her, but feeling competitive, I really upped my game. Last month, I spent around $200 on concert tickets because Felix brought up liking the same band she did. I realized that was a truly misguided way of addressing my insecurities, instead of simply talking to Felix or Emma. But I didn't want to admit I'm envious of Felix, as I had to constantly when we were kids. I just want one goddamn part of my life that's mine, that gives me its undivided love and attention, and I thought that Emma was that for me. Now, whenever she brings up Felix, or I think of them in class together, I feel physically unwell. It's making me crazy. To clarify, the day after that semi-argument, I felt insecure again and sent an apology text to Emma. Then I suggested we visit a nearby lake town she'd been wanting to go to for a whole year. She already had plans for everything she wanted to do there. It was always just me who was too busy with classes and my part-time job. So she was super excited. She picked a weekend, and we spent the prior week planning for it, deciding on the activities and packing, and she reserved us a hotel room. She had so many ideas. She seemed truly happy planning it all. For a moment, things felt normal once more, like they were before Felix showed up. When she spoke about getting that ice cream, she had that excited look in her eyes, and when I joked about getting a king bed at the hotel, she blushed, as she used to when we first began dating. It was nice, but before we headed out on Friday, she asked me a question that fucking destroyed me. She asked if we could bring Felix. Not any other friends. She didn't ask if we could make it a group event. She asked for only Felix to join us. I asked her why in the world we'd bring my little brother when it's meant to be something romantic for just the two of us. She explained that the three of us are always spending time together, and she'd told Felix about the lake and invited him to go at some point previously, so it would seem impolite not to bring him. I just stood there, stunned. Our romantic getaway that she'd been wanting to do for a year, and she wanted to bring Felix. I asked if she was kidding, and she wasn't. She said it would be fun with him there too. She said he'd been feeling lonely lately and could use the trip. When I asked where he would sleep, she said, Obviously, we'd need to book a room with 2 beds then, as if I was being dense. So not only was she inviting him, but she was literally suggesting we change our sleeping arrangements from sharing a bed to not, just to accommodate him. After suppressing everything for so long, I finally blew up at her with how upset the two of them made me. How I felt like a third wheel whenever it's the three of us. I mentioned the flirting and the conversation I overheard, and even briefly mentioned how my parents did this exact thing to me. Admittedly, they have nothing to do with her, but still told her I'm so weary of being someone's second favorite. I told her it seemed like she was more keen on spending time with Felix than with me. I brought up the time she was late to our plans because of lunch with him, the way she lights up when he texts, how she always laughs harder at his jokes than mine. I directly asked her if she had feelings for him. I don't think I've ever been that direct or confrontational with anyone in my life. She responded by saying I was totally exaggerating as I'm acting like she cheated, when she didn't do anything. I never accused her of cheating. She said all their interactions have been platonic, and she continued explaining her perspective, until I started feeling guilty for becoming so emotional. She said I was being paranoid, and that nothing was happening between them. She said they were just friends, and that she was attempting to be kind to him, because he's my brother, and she knows how important family is. But I told her I was sorry, and would no longer go to the lake with her, which angered her. She mentioned the hotel and a few places she'd reserved times with would impose a cancellation fee on her, but I didn't care. She started crying and stated I was overreacting. I just couldn't do it anymore. The thought of watching her smile at Felix all weekend, while I acted like everything was all right, was overwhelming. I left her apartment and drove back home without another word. This happened about a week ago, and I haven't seen either of them since. Felix messaged me, asking to speak just the two of us. I presume Emma informed him about our argument, but I blocked him. My parents called asking why I wasn't talking to Felix, and I invented an excuse about being occupied with schoolwork. They seemed suspicious, but didn't press the issue. The following day, Emma messaged asking if we could speak, and I simply didn't reply. She sent a few more messages over the next few days, but I couldn't make myself reply. I saw her across campus once and slipped into a building to steer clear of her. I know that's childish, but I simply couldn't confront her yet. Do I truly believe Felix is interested in Emma? No, he's likely just incredibly sheltered by my parents and doesn't know any better. But do I think Emma has feelings for him? Yes, but I still love her so very much. I can't stop thinking about her. We've been together for 3 years, and until Felix arrived, everything was perfect. But what if I'm mistaken? What if she merely considers him a good friend? In their defense, I've never actually told Felix to cease the flirting, nor truly mentioned to Emma that her friendship with him bothers me. I'm also the one who put them in the same classes and introduced them. Perhaps this is all my fault for being so insecure, but then why did she have to invite him on our romantic getaway? I just don't know what to do. Update. Many of you were quite harsh about my attitude regarding my insecurity. But then why did she have to invite him on our romantic getaway? I simply don't know what to do. Many of you were quite harsh about my attitude toward Felix, which I suppose I earned, but some of you don't grasp what it's like to grow up with someone who's constantly the center of attention. And to those claiming I'm inventing this whole situation, I goddamn wish I were. But anyway, here's an update on what transpired between my 22 Hamakia girlfriend 21F and adopted brother 18M. I tried to keep track of things as they occurred, but I apologize if this post remains lengthy and confusing. A lot has happened since my last post, though most of it is just conversations and not like dramatic events or anything. To clarify points from comments, I blocked my brother because I was angry at him for causing all this. I didn't tell him why, though. I just blocked his number. Juniors can take classes with freshmen at my school. There are pathways you need to graduate, but you can complete them at your own pace. Emma is actually in a 5-year program, so she's taking some lower-level classes now that she didn't have time for before. My girlfriend never told my brother to do OnlyFans. I brought it up as a comparison for the modeling thing. Some people in the comments thought she actually suggested that, which is not true. Why didn't I think Felix liked Emma? I disliked how he acted with her, but it was mild compared to what he does with his guy friends from high school. He's just an extremely physical person, which I think stems from his past. My parents once told me that when they first got him, he wouldn't let anyone touch him at all, and now he's gone the complete opposite direction. Sorry for insulting you all in STEM. I was just making a joke. I'm sure some of you are built like Greek gods. On to the update. After reading many of your comments, I realized that I needed to at least hear Felix out before jumping to conclusions. So I unblocked him and texted him, asking if he still wanted to talk. He replied immediately, saying yes, and we got together at a coffee shop off campus, where we wouldn't encounter anyone we recognized. The reason Felix messaged me was apparently because Emma inquired about my upbringing, and something she stated led him to believe I was angry with him. She had noted that I appeared bothered recently and questioned if it related to how our parents handled us as we grew up. Felix stated he believed I'd been keeping away from him, which I had, but didn't understand why. I directly asked him if he was interested in Emma, and he replied no, and mentioned he consented to go to the lake because he assumed I was the one who wanted him to join. Evidently, Emma had informed him that we were arranging this trip and wished to know if he was available that weekend. He presumed she meant both of us desired his presence. I requested to see their messages, which I know is an invasion of privacy, but I was desperate. He paused but consented, which astonished me. We sat there for about 20 minutes while I looked through their conversation history. The texts weren't truly explicit, but they still felt intimate. Emma offered him compliments, affirmations, and nicknames, and talked to him lovingly in a way that made me feel special to her when she spoke to me. She constantly asked Felix for help with schoolwork, focusing on how smart he is. He's genuinely brilliant, I'll give him that. Shared her dreams for the future with him, and sought his advice on one of her deepest struggles, family issues she'd only discussed with me previously. There was nothing that hinted at cheating, but I still felt betrayed somehow. She messaged him memes nearly every day. She asked about his day constantly. She even once sent him a selfie asking if her new haircut looked good. He said it did. They discussed their classes, professors, assignments, but also more personal things like their childhoods and fears about the future. One message I saw had her say, "You understand me in a way most people don't," which made my stomach turn. I had believed I was the one who knew her best. Felix's texts were primarily jokes, and the affectionate ones were basically the same messages he sends to our mom, like, "miss you," or "you're the best," with heart emojis. I trusted him by this time, so I attempted to explain how I felt about them. He offered a profuse apology and stated he would stop communicating with Emma. He mentioned he had his own crush and teased that I should ask her out on a weekend trip to get back at him. Felix said he was simply trying to be friends with my friends, so I'd hang out with him more than just giving him rides. He said he hadn't made many friends here yet, as he was new to the school, and since I already had an established friend group, he was attempting to blend in with them. He asked if I had blocked him because I don't like him, and it was difficult to explain that no, I don't like him, but that doesn't mean I don't love him. I attempted to clarify my hostility by highlighting our parents' favoritism, and Felix responded with something like, "You're right, they do seem to like me better. Maybe you're adopted." He's never truly taken that seriously. We both laughed it off. I asked Felix to detail Emma's behavior towards him, and from what I gathered, Emma and her friend frequently commented on his appearance, were aware he was regularly at the gym, and they visited him a few times while he was attempting to work out. Emma often offered him rides and urged him to come over to her apartment to drink, as he had never done so previously. He hadn't informed me earlier because he doesn't know what behaviors are acceptable or not, no shit, and believed Emma simply wanted to be his friend. He said on one occasion they were studying together in the library, and she rested her head on his shoulder when she was tired. On another occasion, she helped him select clothes when they encountered each other at the mall. He said she was continually touching his arm when they talked, and she once adjusted his collar before a presentation. Small things that weren't precisely overstepping a boundary, but together formed a picture I disliked. I gave him a quick lesson on relationship boundaries and why neither of their actions was acceptable, and suggested he not flirt so much with everyone. Felix mentioned he simply tries to treat women the same way he treats men, but pledged to try and control his behavior. He appeared genuinely regretful and stated he'd be more careful in the future, particularly with my friends and girlfriends. After speaking with Felix, I realized I also needed to hear Emma's perspective. We exchanged texts for a while before agreeing to meet. I had several conversations with Emma that I'll just combine into one, when we eventually met in person at a park close to her apartment. She appeared as though she hadn't been sleeping well, which made me feel both guilty and justified simultaneously. She said that when we had our disagreement by the lake, my anger emerged unexpectedly, and it frightened her that I seemed to be accusing her of cheating. She said that when we had our disagreement by the lake, my anger emerged unexpectedly, and it frightened her that I seemed to be accusing her of cheating. She mentioned she had no clue I was feeling this way and wished I had raised it earlier. She apologized for being close to Felix, but reminded me that I'd never gone into detail about my past with him. She stated she thought I'd be pleased they got along so well. I apologized for not communicating. When I mentioned the texts, Emma opened their DMs for me to indicate the one that troubled me, but I could hardly explain why they did. I asked why she asked Felix on the trip, and she said she mentioned we had plans to go and Felix appeared interested. She stated she was simply being polite by including him, but she showed me texts where Felix asked if he could come over, not the other way around like he asserted. She denied ever visiting him at the gym or commenting on his appearance, more than typical compliments you'd give any friend. She conceded they had become close, but maintained it was entirely platonic and that she saw him as a little brother figure. She said she'd been putting in effort with him because she knew how important family was to me, even though I complained about him sometimes. Emma said he'd cut him off if this upset me, but I told her we required a break, because whether the interest Felix described was real or not, I believed it. She began crying when I said break and asked if I intended to break up. I said I wasn't sure yet, that I simply needed time to think. She was highly emotional, but eventually grasped that it was my issue, and not solely something she did. She thanked me for being honest with her, and supported my desire to address my insecurities. There was much back and forth between the two of them that I've omitted, so by this point I was drained. Their stories didn't align, and I had no clue who to believe. A part of me wanted to trust Emma because I love her, but another part of me felt as though I'd witnessed the signs firsthand. But yes, I confronted Felix about the inconsistencies in their accounts, and he appeared nervous. He stuck by what he said and implied Emma might have skipped class to meet him at the gym. He did indeed go over to her place to drink, and when he recounted what occurred, his words were jumbled, and his narrative kept shifting. Initially, he said it was just him, Emma, and a few others. Then he claimed there were around 10 people there. Then he stated perhaps it was more like 5 or 6. He couldn't keep the specifics consistent. Felix is a poor liar, so I sensed this was a cover-up, and demanded to know if he had slept with Emma. He became very flustered and denied it, but his face was bright red. He asserted his memory was unclear because the others provided him with far too much alcohol, and continued about how he was so intoxicated that he vomited in the bathroom. He said he hardly recalled parts of the night, that they played some drinking game, and that someone, he believed Emma, assisted him to the bathroom when he became ill. He said Emma told him he could stay on her couch, but he insisted on going home, and someone drove him. I didn't completely believe him. I know his tells, and he appeared as though he was lying. I questioned Emma about this, and she hadn't seen him get sick, which makes more sense as she's very responsible with alcohol, and I don't think she would allow someone she cares about to overdo it. She said he had maybe 3 beers in total and seemed fine when he left. Certainly not blackout drunk, as he was suggesting. I don't know why they would tell me about this in the first place, but I'm starting to suspect they drunkenly slept together, and now they can't keep their story consistent. The other day, Felix noticeably reduced his affectionate/flirty behavior with some of his friends, so it appears he's trying to demonstrate he can heed my advice. I observed him speaking to one of his friends, and he maintained a good amount of distance between them, not touching them once. But I feel like he wouldn't listen to me that much if he wasn't incredibly guilty, which almost makes me believe more that he had sex with Emma. I said some rather cruel things to him when we were alone, but I regret it now because I'm probably overthinking. It would be very uncharacteristic for both of them to have an affair, as Emma was always loyal before this mess, and Felix has never cared for dating. I somewhat want to make Felix send a fake "wanna go out" text to Emma to see if she was lying about her feelings for him, but if she says yes, I'll just feel terrible. And if she says no, I still won't know if she's being truthful or just saying that because she knows he wouldn't actually be interested. I'm so weary of feeling paranoid, and I wasn't ready for Emma's absence to feel so surreal to me, and now I just feel disconnected from reality. I haven't been sleeping well. I continually check my phone expecting a message from her, then recall we're taking a break and feel ill once more. I've considered reaching out to the others from the drinking night to get their account, but I also simply wish to concentrate on other matters currently. I believe I'll follow the advice from comments and explore counseling. It has been a difficult few weeks since all of this occurred. Yesterday, my parents called me inquiring why Felix appeared so low, and I was forced to lie, claiming I had no clue. I simply no longer know who to trust, or if I'm merely fabricating all of this in my mind due to my problems with Felix. I suppose that's all for now. I may provide another update if anything notable occurs, but currently I'm just attempting to get through each day. Thank you for reading this far, if you did. And the last story for today. I'm 32F, and I share a daughter, 9 going on 10F, with my ex-husband, 36M. We split up when she was 3, and it didn't exactly end on the best of terms. In fact, it was quite awful, but I'll come back to that. He wound up remarrying one of his colleagues fairly quickly after we separated. I'll call her Melissa to keep things simple. They have a son together, 6M, that my daughter is around whenever she's over at her dad's. To give some context, my daughter has always been a very quiet child. She's the kind of kid who would rather sit in a corner with a book than go running around with other children. There's nothing at all wrong with that. I was the same way as a child. Her father was always more outgoing, so I believe he sometimes doesn't get why she isn't more, I don't know, social, I suppose. Melissa is also incredibly extroverted and loud, which I think makes my daughter feel uneasy at times. So, my daughter has a birthday coming up soon. The other day, I sat with her to go through all the birthday plans, the cake, and who she'd like to invite. We were making good progress until we reached the guest list part. I noticed she became really quiet and appeared anxious about something. At first, I thought perhaps she was worried about inviting a kid from school she doesn't get on with, or maybe she hoped to invite someone I wouldn't approve of. But when I asked what was wrong, she paused for a bit before telling me that she didn't want to invite Melissa. This caught me off guard because even though Melissa isn't my favorite person, obviously, I'd always thought she and my daughter got along okay. At least that's what my daughter always led me to believe whenever I asked about her time at her dad's. I asked her why, and what she told me made my blood boil. Apparently, Melissa makes these weird, passive-aggressive comments all the time when my ex isn't present or is busy with work. My daughter told me when Melissa picks her up from dance class, she'll say things to the other moms like, "That's why I prefer boys. Girls only like pink and tutus," right in front of my daughter. She's called my daughter a brat behind her back, but loud enough for her to hear. There was one time when my daughter didn't finish her dinner because she wasn't feeling well, and Melissa told her she was high maintenance and too picky for her to hear. There was one time when my daughter didn't finish her dinner because she wasn't feeling well, and Melissa told her she was high maintenance and too picky for her own good. The worst part is how she handles conflicts between my daughter and her half-brother. According to my daughter, whenever her half-brother does something to annoy her, like breaking her toys or calling her names, Melissa always takes her son's side. She'll punish my daughter and let her son off with the "boys will be boys" excuse or some other BS like that. My daughter told me about a time when her half-brother deliberately ripped a page out of her favorite book, and Melissa told her to stop making such a big deal out of it, and that he's just a little boy who doesn't know any better. My daughter also mentioned something that happened a few weeks back when she was working on a school project at her dad's house. Her half-brother kept interrupting and wanting to play, and when she asked for some space to finish her work, Melissa told her she was being selfish and needed to learn to share her time. The project ended up being late because she couldn't concentrate, and she got a lower grade than she usually does. When she tried to explain to her teacher why it was late, she was too embarrassed to tell the real reason and just said she forgot about it. I asked about her dad's reaction to all this, and apparently he's hardly ever around when it happens. He works from home but is always locked in his office on calls, so Melissa pretty much has free rein to treat my daughter however she wants. My daughter never felt comfortable telling him because she said she doesn't want to make problems for her dad. That broke my heart. She's been keeping this all to herself because she's worried about her dad's happiness. What kind of burden is that to put on a 9-year-old? I thought about it overnight and decided that I wasn't going to force my daughter to have someone at her birthday that makes her uncomfortable. It's her day after all. So I called my ex to let him know the date of the party. I also wanted to discuss with him what our daughter had told me, but I never got the chance. I think I was on speakerphone because when I mentioned that Melissa wasn't invited, I suddenly heard her screaming in the background about how I'm trying to destroy her family and driving a wedge between her and her stepdaughter. My ex got all defensive too, saying I was being petty and using our daughter to get back at them for getting together. He even had the nerve to bring up something from years ago when I didn't invite his mother to a school event because she had made some comments about my parenting. That was completely different. His mother had criticized me to my face in front of other parents at a PTA meeting, and the school event was one where each kid could only have 2 guests anyway. For the record, yes, we divorced because he told me he had fallen in love with Melissa and wanted to confess. So yeah, there's that whole thing. He worked late all the time, and I later found out those late nights were spent with her. But that was years ago, and I've moved on. I ended the call with my ex because it was getting nowhere, and he was just defending Melissa without even asking why our daughter didn't want her there. He texted me later saying I was being unreasonable and that excluding Melissa would only create more division in the family. I replied that it wasn't about him or Melissa or me. It was about our daughter and what would make her birthday special. He didn't respond after that. My sister thinks I should just invite Melissa to keep the peace, but I feel like that would be betraying my daughter's trust. She finally opened up to me about something that's been bothering her, and I want her to know that I take her feelings seriously. My best friend says I'm doing the right thing by standing my ground, but she's never been a big fan of my ex anyway, so I'm not sure if her opinion is biased. So, am I the a-hole for not inviting my ex-husband's wife to my daughter's birthday party because my daughter specifically asked me not to? I see a lot of people asking questions in the comments, so let me clarify some things. My daughter's half-sibling is 4 years younger than her. My daughter was born in April. Her half-brother was born in March, the year after the divorce. He just turned 6, and yes, we divorced because my ex-husband told me he was in love with Melissa and wanted to confess. I'm not making that up. He literally sat me down one night after I put our daughter to bed and told me he had developed feelings for someone at work and wanted to explore that relationship. When I asked if he was already seeing her, he admitted they had kissed once at a work event, but swore nothing else had happened yet. I found out later from a mutual friend that it had been going on for months. We have 50-50 custody, always have. We switch every week, Sunday to Sunday. It seems to work okay for our daughter, and she has her own room at both houses. My ex does have a busy job and works crazy hours. Even when we were married, he was always working late or on weekends. I'm not saying Melissa is entirely to blame for his absence. He's always been a workaholic. For those asking about my relationship status, yes, I've dated since the divorce, but I'm currently single. Update. Wow, I didn't expect this to blow up like it did. Thanks for all the comments and support. Some of you were pretty harsh about my ex, but I get it. Some of you also said I should go straight to a lawyer and try to change our custody arrangement, but I wanted to give him a chance to fix things first. A lot of you asked for an update, so here it is. So, a lot has happened since my last post. First of all, I asked my ex to meet me for lunch alone, without Melissa. He agreed, which honestly surprised me. Maybe all the messages, which weren't serious, about me going to court scared him, I don't know. We met at this place near his office that we used to go to when we were still married. It was weird being there again with him, but whatever. I tried to be as calm and factual as possible, even though I wanted to scream at him for being so oblivious. At first, he was super defensive and said our daughter was probably overreacting or misunderstanding things. He even suggested that maybe I had somehow coached her into saying these things, which made me want to throw my water in his face. I told him point blank that even if that were somehow true, his relationship with his daughter was at serious risk here. I asked him if he was willing to risk losing his connection with her just to avoid confronting Melissa about her behavior. That seemed to finally get through to him a little. I gave him a clear choice: fix the problem with Melissa, or I'd go back to court for more custody. I didn't want to threaten that, but honestly, I'll do whatever it takes to protect my daughter. He got quiet after that, and I could tell he was actually thinking about it instead of just dismissing everything I said. He promised he would talk to Melissa and pay more attention to how she interacts with our daughter. He also said he would try to be more present when our daughter is at their house instead of always working. I told him I'd believe it when I saw it, but that I was willing to give him a chance to make things right before involving lawyers. Last Friday, when I went to pick up my daughter from his house, I pulled her aside and asked how things had been. She told me that her dad had been spending a lot more time with her, picking her up from school and activities, helping with homework, and actually playing with her instead of just working all the time. So that was something, at least. Then Melissa came up to me while my daughter was getting her stuff. She was acting all nice, which was weird because she's usually pretty cold to me. She said she accepted not going to the party, but still wanted to see my daughter blow out candles on her actual birthday. She'd baked a cake and asked if it would be okay to do a small thing before we left. I didn't want to cause a scene, and the fact that she was making an effort seemed positive. So I asked my daughter if she was okay with it. She nodded, though I could tell she wasn't thrilled about it. So we all gathered around this cake Melissa had made. My daughter Melissa, my ex, and the half-brother. It was actually a pretty nice cake, which had my daughter's favorite colors. I was starting to think maybe I had misjudged the situation, and things were going to get better. Here's where things went to shit. When my daughter blew out the candles, her half-brother decided it would be hilarious to smash my daughter's face right into the cake. I'm not even kidding. If this wasn't a 6-year-old kid, I swear I would have lost it completely. Melissa and her son burst out laughing while my daughter was in tears with cake all over her face and hair. Her unicorn headband that she loves got broken in the process, and there was frosting all over her new sweater. The look on my daughter's face was heartbreaking. She was so humiliated and upset. Melissa had the audacity to tell my daughter she was being dramatic and emotional and needed to learn to take a joke. I was about to say something when my ex actually stepped in and told his son that what he did was not okay. Melissa immediately got defensive and said he was just playing and my daughter was overreacting. We all started arguing, me, Melissa, and my ex. To my surprise, my ex actually took my side and told Melissa that she needed to apologize to our daughter for laughing and for dismissing her feelings. In the middle of all this, I realized my daughter had disappeared, so I went to find her. She was in the bathroom trying to clean cake out of her hair and crying silently. It broke my heart. I helped her get cleaned up as best I could, and we just left. I didn't even say goodbye to my ex or Melissa. I was too angry, and I knew if I stayed, I would say things I might regret. She was still upset in the car, so I stopped for ice cream and tried to cheer her up. I told her she didn't have to go back to her dad's for a while if she didn't want to. She asked if that was allowed, and I said we would figure it out. I didn't want to put any more pressure on her by asking her to make big decisions. But I also wanted her to know she had options. The actual birthday party went okay the next day. She invited about 10 kids from her class and a couple from her dance class. Her dad came without Melissa or the half-brother, which was for the best. He brought her a really nice gift. During the party, I pulled my ex aside and told him I was serious about seeking more custody because of his wife's bullying. I mentioned the cake incident as further evidence that Melissa and her son have no respect for our daughter's feelings. He didn't argue with me this time, which was a first. He actually seemed worried, which made me think maybe he was finally taking this seriously. My daughter seemed to have a good time at her party, although I noticed she was quieter than usual. One of her friends asked about the half-brother, and I overheard my daughter saying she didn't want to talk about him. I'm worried about the long-term effects all this might have on her. I've been thinking about finding her a therapist to talk to, but I'm not sure if that would make her feel like there's something wrong with her. I might ask her pediatrician for advice. Anyway, that's where things stand right now. I've started documenting everything. All the incidents my daughter has told me about, the cake thing, everything. Just in case I do need to go to court eventually. I'm hoping it won't come to that, but I need to be prepared. I'll update again when there's more to share. Some people are asking about my daughter's reaction. My daughter is extremely shy and quiet. She doesn't really talk much except to me and her dad, and even then only if spoken to first, unless it's about something she's really into like space or unicorns or this book series she loves. When she gets upset, she doesn't throw tantrums or anything. She just goes completely silent and cries. That's what happened after the cake thing. She just started crying and went to the bathroom to be alone. It's always been her way of handling things that upset her. For those saying I should have confronted Melissa and her son right then and there, believe me, I wanted to. But making a bigger scene would have only embarrassed my daughter more, and she was already upset enough. I chose to focus on her needs in that moment rather than my anger. And no, my daughter hasn't been diagnosed with anything like anxiety or depression, though I've sometimes wondered if she might have some mild social anxiety. She's always been reserved, even as a toddler. Her teachers say she's well behaved and does great academically, but they've mentioned she could participate more in class discussions. I don't want to label her or make her feel different, but maybe the therapist's idea isn't so bad. Update 2. Hi everyone, I saw a lot of you asking for another update, so here it is. Sorry it took a while. Things have been pretty hectic around here. My daughter, after the cake incident, I sat down with her and asked some more detailed questions. I wanted to know if Melissa or her half-brother had ever laid hands on her before, played these kinds of pranks, or behaved inappropriately in any other way. She told me no, explaining that the fights with her half-brother are mainly just him being annoying and getting in her space. Things like changing the TV channel when she's watching something, messing with her stuff, or making noise when she's trying to read. Typical little brother annoyances, but still frustrating for her, especially when Melissa always takes his side. I also asked if anyone else from either side of the family had ever made her feel uncomfortable, and again she said no. My ex's parents are actually pretty good with her. They take her out for special days sometimes, and always remember her birthday and stuff. My parents adore her and spoil her rotten, of course. Since my last post, she's been seeing a child psychiatrist twice a week. I took the advice of many commenters and found someone who specializes in children dealing with blended families. At first, my daughter was reluctant to go, but she seems to like the doctor now. They do art therapy or something. I'm not really sure of all the details, because my daughter says their sessions are private. But she seems a little more confident after each visit, so I think it's helping. I didn't mention this earlier, but Apparently, the bullying from Melissa only really started about 2 months ago. Before that, Melissa was never particularly warm to my daughter, but she wasn't openly hostile either. I don't know if the bullying from Melissa only really started about 2 months ago. Before that, Melissa was never particularly warm to my daughter, but she wasn't openly hostile either. I don't know if it's related, though I strongly suspect it is, but it was around the time that Melissa had a miscarriage. My ex mentioned it in passing during a drop-off, but we didn't really discuss it. Not that it excuses her behavior at all, but it might explain the timing. Maybe she's taking out her grief and frustration on my daughter, which is completely unacceptable, but at least gives some context to the sudden change. My daughter has been staying with me most of the time lately. She still sees her dad, but they usually go out somewhere together instead of her staying at his house. Last weekend, they went to a science museum that had a special exhibit on space, and she came home really excited about it. She showed me all the pictures they took and talked nonstop about black holes and galaxies. It was nice to see. Me, to be completely honest, I feel like a terrible mom. I didn't see any of the signs. My daughter was suffering, and I had no clue. I keep thinking about all the times she came home from her dad's house, and I asked her how it went. And she just said, "Fine," or "Okay." I should have pushed harder, asked more specific questions, and paid more attention to her moods. I'm doing everything I can to fix things now, but I can't help feeling I failed her. I've been talking to a lawyer friend of mine, not officially retaining her, just getting some advice about what my options are regarding custody. She says that without clear evidence of abuse, it might be hard to get the current arrangement changed. The cake incident isn't enough on its own, though it does show poor judgment on Melissa's part. My daughter's testimony would matter, but the court would be careful about putting her in the middle of an adult conflict. So for now, I'm collecting information and keeping detailed records of everything, just in case. Work has been crazy too. I had to take some time off to deal with all this, and my boss has been understanding, but I can tell he's getting a little impatient. I'm trying to balance everything. Being there for my daughter, keeping up with work, dealing with my ex and the whole custody situation. It's exhausting, honestly. Some nights I just cry after my daughter goes to bed because it all feels so overwhelming. My ex-husband, guess who showed up at my door at 10 p.m. the other night? My ex called me, said he was outside and wanted to talk. I was already in my pajamas and about to go to bed, but I let him in anyway. And because I don't trust him, I recorded our conversation. With his consent, I'm not trying to get in legal trouble or anything. He looked terrible, like he hadn't slept in days. He told me that since the birthday party, he's been thinking a lot about what to do. He said he had been watching Melissa more carefully, and he noticed things he hadn't picked up on before. The way she talked to our daughter, how she always favored her son. Little comments she would make that seemed innocent, but actually weren't. He said he felt like an idiot for not seeing it sooner. He finally told Melissa about my intention to seek more custody. According to him, her response was that it wasn't such a bad idea because my daughter wasn't fitting into their family dynamic anyway. They started arguing, and at one point, she just went off, cursing about me and my daughter. Apparently, I'm a sneaky bitch who's still bitter about her affair with my ex-husband. She described my daughter as a spoiled, bratty princess who needs correction. Then she gave him an ultimatum. He has to choose between which woman he loves the most. Seriously, who says stuff like that? It's not a competition between his child and his wife. They're totally different relationships. He said that's when it clicked for him. He left the house, drove around for a while, and ended up at my doorstep. He's staying at a friend's place now while he figures out what to do about his relationship with Melissa. He seemed genuinely upset about the whole situation, and for the first time in years, I actually felt sorry for him. He kept saying he had failed our daughter and didn't know how to make it right. We talked for hours about our daughter, about our past, about what went wrong in our marriage. It was strange, not comfortable exactly, but less tense than our conversations have been in a long time. We agreed that our daughter will stay with me during the week and visit him on weekends for now. He suggested maybe taking her out. just the two of them, rather than having her stay at his house where she would have to deal with Melissa and her half-brother. I made it clear that if he gets back together with Melissa, I'm absolutely going forward with seeking full custody. But if they split up, it would depend on his custody arrangement for his son, because I don't want that kid around my daughter anymore after what happened. He agreed to these terms, which surprised me. I guess he's finally putting our daughter first. Before he left, he asked me if I thought there was any way to repair Melissa's relationship with our daughter. I told him honestly that I didn't know, but that it would take a lot of work and genuine change on Melissa's part. She would need to recognize what she's done wrong and make a real effort to be a better stepmother. I also said that our daughter might not be ready to forgive her right away or ever, and that he needed to respect that. He nodded and said he understood. The next day, he texted me to say thank you for listening and that he was going to make things right. I'm not sure what that means exactly, but I guess we'll see. My daughter doesn't know about any of this yet. I don't want to get her hopes up or put any more pressure on her to manage adult relationships. When she's with her dad, she seems happy. So that's what matters for now. That's where things stand right now. My daughter is doing a little better with the help of therapy. My ex is living separately from Melissa while he figures things out. I'm still documenting everything and keeping my options open regarding custody. Thanks for all the support and advice. It really helped me feel less alone in all this. I'll update again if anything major changes, but for now, I'm focusing on helping my daughter feel safe and loved.